All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening's Board of Education meeting for the Greenwich Board of Education. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody here in person and watching online. Our agenda tonight is a little bit of a hodgepodge, considering now that we've gone through the budget process. This meeting, if you see from the agenda, we've got various updates of different aspects of the community to talk about, including really the highlight is update from our good friends at the Greenwich Alliance. But first, I just wanted to note at the beginning here, we have shifted our typical agenda our format slightly. From now on, we're instead of beginning immediately with public comment, we're going to do superintendent report and board reports at the top of the meeting, so all the community can hear everything and then go right to public comment. So we're going to shift that order a little bit. It's a little odd this evening because we don't actually have any public comment, so all the more reason to point that out. So that said, I'm going to turn things over to Superintendent Jones with her superintendent report. I always forget the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda? All right, Mr. moves.
I can second.
Seconded by Veronica. All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Okay, Sophie's online. Well, that is unanimous. Thank you. Consent agenda passes. And now, Superintendent Jones.
Thank you. Just a couple of reminders tonight. Congratulations to all the musical performances and theater action that has been happening. It's just been phenomenal. I know I said that last month as well. Just as a reminder, at the bottom of our Friday note, we are listing a lot of these community events and concerts and things down at the bottom. So just click on those links. There are also where we put some of the author talks, some of the special education workshops. We're getting more and more of our community members that will send us things for our community partners, and they want us to share that out in that newsletter because it does have a high readership. So keep them coming. We love it. Summer Fair will be coming on January 28th. For parents that are newer to the district or have little ones, you may not understand what that is, but that is the event to attend on the 28th at GHS if you want to know any summer camp, anything that's happening this summer that you can enroll your students and get them engaged in. And then the last thing, you always ask me about buses, and at least I have something positive to say this time. We did get all of the buses moved off of JC over the weekend, which was great. We will have 25 that were approximately 25 were moving from Western. I know the board is aware, but when it went to the planning office, we did get capped at 35 buses. They don't want us to have more than 35 there. But the hunt is not over. This is a temporary solution, making things better today. We hope to still have a permanent solution, and we would rather have it sooner than later. So that we're still looking every single day. That's all for me.
Well, up next is reports from board committees. Anybody have a report? Ms. Walsh.
Sure, just an update for the Julian Curtis building. It continues to make progress. Phase 1 and 2 are very close to completion. The elevator is complete and awaiting inspection. One step remains, placing a box around the shutoff switch, and then inspection will follow. The front entrance is nearing completion, also with the last door to be installed this week. After this, only a punch list of items will remain. We've interviewed the lowest bidder for phase 3 and plan to make our final selection in the next 2 weeks. This is the third phase, the cafeteria, and it's on track to be completed this summer.
Any questions for Wendy? Paul, I think I saw your hand up.
Thank you. I have a report for the Riverside School Building Committee. The Riverside School Building Committee met for the first time on Tuesday, January 13th. Committee members were introduced, and those who had not previously met had the opportunity to become acquainted. Officers were nominated and elected as follows. Mr. Patrick Pezdek will serve as chair, Mr. Luigi Gallardi, vice chair, and Mr. Brian Finkel as secretary. The committee discussed an initial meeting cadence with the understanding that meeting frequency may increase as the project progresses. The next meeting has been scheduled for January 28th and, subject to availability, will be held at Riverside School. The committee is currently short 2 members. However, we were advised that the Board of Selectmen is actively conducting interviews for those positions. The committee also discussed areas of expertise that would be beneficial for the remaining appointments, including legal, engineering, and MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. I look forward to working closely with this capable and engaged group.
Questions? Okay, Veronica?
Thank you. I have 3 updates. The Greenwich Alliance for Education had their first meeting just of this year, which was on Tuesday. I've passed out the organization's impact report, which highlights last year's work. The Alliance had a tremendously successful turkey trot this past November. The next fundraiser will be the Trivia Challenge on February 27th at Tamarack Country Club. I'll leave the remainder of the update to Julie Ferriniers, who's here, and will be presenting later. Can I continue with 2 more? Thanks. I have 2 more. Sorry. The Distinguished Teacher Awards, which is a longstanding GPS tradition, was established in 1984. Their nomination packets are available on the GPS website, and we encourage all members of the GPS community to consider nominating an outstanding teacher, social worker, guidance counselor, instructional coach, or specialist. Completed nomination packets should be submitted in person or electronically by March 5th at 5 p.m. The award recipients will be recognized at the April 16th Board of Education meeting, and the committee, the Distinguished Teacher Award Committee, that is, invites the board to attend the Distinguished Teacher Celebration on Thursday, May 7th at 4:30 at CMS, and I will send out a reminder. And lastly, the Special Education Advisory Committee also met this week. Dr. Heiligenthaler presented an update on the Special Education Action Plan, emphasizing the district's continued focus on all areas identified in the PCG audit, even where the goals have already been met or recommendations completed. The March 17th meeting will be a closed session with attendance limited to only a few members of the Board of Education. If anyone's interested in attending, please let me know. SEAC is hoping to have 3 or 4 members of the board join.
Did they say for why? What do they? Why do they? Is it as a forum or?
I think that my understanding is that they want to provide more information to the board and help but I think the ultimate goal is to bridge the gap between their committee and the board and make sure that we're communicating in a productive way, and that we have continued updates, and they want feedback from us on what their schedule might look like in terms of presenting to us, and then we can give them feedback on what works with our schedule, similar to the cadence I sent you in the email. Does that help?
Any questions? Okay, so Veronica gets the gold star for 3 reports. Does anyone on this table have 4 reports that they can? All right, Mr. Cheney, 2, you get a silver star. Go ahead.
I'll be fast. Just Central Middle School is still going strong. Everything's on time and budget. And if anybody has any specific questions, they can just email me about that. I can get to them. And for the RTM, all the committees are locked in with chairs, vice chairs, and secretaries. There's a few alternates for a few of the committees that aren't filled in, but everybody has a seat at the table, all 12 districts.
Realize we're going to have to find a new place to meet this time next year because of the work of the CMS committee, right?
That's true.
Karen?
I'm sure they can set up a nice space for us outside to meet in the nice weather. So my updates are PTAC met this week, and there were some very in-depth discussions about busing, which I know Dr. Jones has updated us already on. There was a wonderful report by Ms. Franiars, who will be giving us a similar update later. And they just got a little bit of a preview of some of the discussion items that we were going to have this evening. And all went well there. I unfortunately do not have an update from EMAC as I missed the meeting. So I will have that for you guys next time.
Okay. So now we move on to the public hearing portion. And up first, as always, we want to welcome our representatives from GHS Student Government.
Good evening, distinguished members of the Board of Education and Dr. Jones. I hope you've had a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year, and that all has been since the last Board of Ed meeting. At that December meeting, the proposed 2026 to 27 school year budget was formally approved. I would like to address not the budget itself, but the process of approving it. On November 6, 2025, the original proposed budget for the 26 to 27 school year was introduced. While the meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum, it still achieved its goal of proposing and introducing the budget to the community. November 20th was the first meeting in which public comments were fully heard. With only 2 weeks' notice, teachers, students, and parents were required to allocate and they're required to adjust their already busy schedules to fully comprehend the changes outlined in the proposed budget. On December 8th, the budget was discussed and approved. However, there was not sufficient time for community members to share their feedback and no time for the board to reflect on the input received. Also, GHS's candlelight concert was the same day, causing many interested in speaking to be unable to attend. November 20th, just 2 weeks after the proposed budget was introduced, marked the last meeting in which public comments were heard with enough time to resonate with the board. In years prior, the board held a separate budget meeting to address this concern. This meeting was eliminated and replaced by a retreat, during which public comments would not be heard. The justification for this decision was that the meeting was not well attended in years prior. However, given the decision to eliminate numerous teaching positions, it should have been evident that this issue would prompt significant public concern and a large number of individuals seeking to speak. Additionally, the considerable attendance on November 20th, with, I believe, over 40 speakers, should have also sparked the idea that more discussion was necessary before a vote. Lastly, I want to reflect on how well-informed the community was throughout this process. It has only recently come to my attention, and that of many others through Dr. Jones, that the reduction in teaching staff did not involve direct individual terminations, but rather the decision not to refill vacant positions when the teachers retire or leave the district at the end of the school year. There was also a concern that many reductions appeared in the World Language Department, but that was clarified as just a temporary placeholder. A public budget workshop, as mentioned by Dr. Jones during our student government lunch meeting this month, would be beneficial for students and other community members to learn about the budget and ask questions. Additionally, these workshops would provide specific clarifications for board decisions, including the reasoning for cuts and impact of these decisions, like the predicted effects from specific reductions of teaching positions on GHS students and course offerings. Thank you all for your support and interest in student initiatives. I understand and recognize the difficulty of putting together a budget for thousands of students with many passionate parents, teachers, and students, especially as a newly formed board. I again ask the board to consider allocating more time to listening to public comments before the final decision, so that public comments do not feel so futile. Oops, I lost my spot. I also ask for more openness and proactive communication. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. And I'm now off to study for midterms, and I hope for the best. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Colin. Good evening, members of the BOE and Dr. Jones, students and community members. I'm Gabriel Leza, the student body president at Greenwich High School, and I'm happy to both see and speak before you this evening. Today was the first day of midterms over at the high school, and it's safe to say that students have been well prepared and are excited to dive into second semester activities. The senior class is preparing a grand prom while also coordinating plans for graduation. Our juniors are preparing fundraisers and a possible cookbook in the coming months. Sophomores are in a similar boat, planning profit shares and school-wide events, while the freshmen are settling in and are planning movies and possible merch for their class. Student government is currently probing the possibility of both a spring prep rally and a research fair at the high school. Ensuring that students will participate will be critical to these goals, which brings me to the discussion of the night. The new classes proposed at GHS will keep us at the forefront of AP offerings, not only in our state, but nationally. I have no doubt that these classes will fill and continue to educate the students of Greenwich to be top tier. However, I would like to set forth a cautionary tale. I myself have been particularly fond of AP classes, and I will graduate in June having completed 14 of them. While the choice to take this many was my own, it was heavily influenced by the expectations and culture of the school. I believe that if we are to introduce new AP classes to the high school and have more honor students make the transition to the AP, there should be additional precautions. In Connecticut, we lead the nation in many things, but pertinent to this discussion is that we lead in high school students reporting insufficient sleep, 80.1% per the CDC. With earlier start times amid the budget cuts of last year, this sleep issue will continue to grow. Looking back to the classes before us, we find traditions that have long been lost. I'm sure many people watching online and in this room can attest to some of their best moments at GHS being SRO, the parade down Putnam, and the once grand senior pranks, all done away with today. One main reason for this is less time and less sleep. This can be accredited to the increase in AP participation where students see more homework and a more demanding course load. And while yes, AP classes prepare students for college, per the College Board, this tends to level off after having taken 5 AP classes. Students take these rigorous courses to increase GPA and chances of getting into top colleges. And with the new GPA guidelines at GHS, I only expect the cons to get worse. Some students see that APs focus too much on memorization and not actually skill building. And to attest to this, it's true that a whole month at the end of the school year, referred to as AP month by the students, is designed simply for recalling the information students, quote, learned during the school year in order to perform well on high-stakes exams. It is for this reason that schools like GCDS and Scarsdale have done away with them completely. With this, some see that AP classes cut critical experiences and freedoms that were once part of GHS through our diverse and independent honors classes and on-level electives. Since most colleges only evaluate students within the context of their high school, there should be more bounds and perhaps hard caps for students taking AP courses here in Greenwich. And so, while we celebrate Greenwich's commitment to academic excellence, I'm asking that we protect the other half of what makes a school excellent, the health, balance, and community life of its students. I feel that has become all too common today, where we sacrifice culture for efficiency and numbers. And so with that, I thank you for your time and for your service to Greenwich, and I look forward to speaking with you again this time next month.
Thank you, Gabe and Colin. I think it's very clear why both of you are the positions you're in. Thank you for your words tonight. Now I want to welcome the GEA. Margaret, up with GEA comments.
Good evening, Chairman Mercanti Anthony, board members, Dr. Jones, community members, and Happy New Year to all. My name is Margaret Jackins, and I am the president of the Greenwich Education Association. I bet you didn't know that I come from a family of teachers, and I married into a family of teachers. There are more than a dozen of us across 3 generations, and I'd like to share some thoughts about the profession to which we've dedicated our lives. Back in the dark ages when I was in school, teachers were often revered in their communities. They were widely respected as experts in their subject areas and trusted to make decisions about curriculum, discipline, and student learning. And rightly or wrongly, their professional judgment was rarely challenged. Over time, accountability and standardizations became dominant themes in education. The rise of standardized testing and performance metrics changed how the public measured a teacher's effectiveness, reducing the complex role of teachers to numerical outcomes rather than professional expertise. Teachers are held accountable for test scores, graduation rates, and student performance, even when many factors are beyond their control. Large class sizes, learning gaps, and home challenges all affect students. Yet teachers often feel the weight of that responsibility alone. This constant pressure can create anxiety and self-doubt, making educators question their effectiveness and worth. We saw an upswing in public opinion toward teachers during the COVID-19 pandemic. Parents who now have their children at home all day trying to get through schoolwork began equating teachers with angels and saints. For some, this renewed appreciation reinforced the idea that teachers are essential workers who support not only academic learning, but also social and emotional development. Now, as lovely as that positive ride was, it soon ended and the downward slide began. Teachers do want strong partnerships with families, but parental demands have skyrocketed. Some parents expect immediate responses at all hours, special consideration, or outcomes that may not be developmentally appropriate. And teachers often worry that a single complaint, whether justified or not, could escalate into a myriad of consequences.
30 seconds.
Access to technology has further transformed how teachers are viewed. With information readily available online, some members of the public have come to underestimate the skill involved in teaching, assuming that access to content is equivalent to education. At the same time, increased visibility through social media and online platforms has subjected teachers to greater scrutiny, criticism, and public judgment than ever before. Right now, our country is facing a shortage of teachers. Veteran teachers are leaving and young people are not entering our profession. I can't say I blame them. Teaching just doesn't carry the same cachet as it used to.
Thank you, Margaret. And welcome to PTAC. Yep.
Hi, everybody. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. My name is Lisa Sylvester, and I'm the PTA Council President. Transparency. It's been a theme since September. We know sometimes with transparency, there's understanding, and with or without it, sometimes there's frustration, and sometimes incredible emotions, including anger. Those emotions drive people to come out to these meetings and to speak up for what they need and what they want for their schools. This community of teachers, parents, and students have come to these meetings each and every month to talk to you all to provide the board much needed perspectives on the needs of our schools as families experience them every day. It is disheartening that at the last BOE meeting, where you all took a vote on the new budget, there was no discussion. It was deja vu back to a BET meeting earlier. It was deja vu back to a BET meeting earlier this calendar year, last school year, where we all came out month after month, urging, pleading, sometimes crying, and none of it mattered. As members of the community that voted for all of you because you ran on transparency, openness to listen, and doing what the community wanted, the last BOE meeting and the vote on the budget was a big blow. When decisions appear to be finalized before the meeting even begins, it diminishes the democratic process. That is damaging to our students and teachers. The majority of us felt that we were not listened to again, and that our input did not matter. While we understand there are budget and other committee meetings outside of this business meeting, and your minds are already made up when tonight rolls around, it doesn't change the fact that we as a group deserve to have our voices actually listened to and not just heard. That all being said, we will not stop advocating for what we feel the students and teachers deserve. We thank you for working on getting the 10 buses moved from JC and another 25 from Western Middle School. We look forward to hearing about the remaining buses at Western being moved, hopefully sooner than later, and we would love to hear about a long-term solution. We want to reiterate that we do not support the elimination of any teachers or teacher positions. In the last 3 years, we've seen a trend of position eliminations that directly threatens our curriculum and student support, and that is worrisome. We continue to advocate for open enrollment at Central Middle School. We anticipate that with today's deadline, there was a group of families interested in moving to Central, and if the objective is raising enrollment, let's keep that door open. We, of course, expect that the district will handle this without causing an enrollment issue at another school, which none of us want. The stress of all the unknowns is not good for anyone, But if we can take on some of that stress by continuously and yes, repetitively bringing up these very important items while trying to advocate for our students and teachers to thrive and succeed in all ways, then we're happy to do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so this is when we would typically have public comment, but like I said at the beginning of the meeting, no one this month signed up for public comment. We have one more new item on the agenda, which is because we shifted things around, which is as part of the public hearing, which it says on the agenda, if needed for Board of Education discussion or clarification, basically to the points that we just heard from PTAC, basically based on the public comment, anything we heard from public comment or questions from GHS or GEA or PTAC. If there's anything that anyone on the board wants to clarify, point out, or remark to, we're putting this moment on the agenda every month in order to make some time for that. So that's kind of what we're doing here. So that said, are there any questions or anything anybody wants to remark about from the comments this evening? Yeah, Veronica? Oh, Karen, go ahead. Karen. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to remark, I hear folks on the frustration that they didn't see a lot of discussion about the budget. And it occurred to me afterward that and I will resolve to be clearer on this next year, to clarify how much time I and others on the board spent going line by line through the budget. We sent 3 rounds of questions to Dr. Jones, Ben Brannion, and the team, which were posted publicly. We carefully reviewed those. We did a lot of our own analysis, some of which led to more questions, some of which we answered our own by going through past budgets and answers to past year budget questions. We certainly, among our caucus, went through a number of the items and read every single one of your emails. I do want people to understand that. We did get several hundred. It is difficult to reply to them all. I assure you, we read all of them. We listened to all of the commentary, the 2 hours at was it November 20th, and then the hour. And I did want to point out that we did leave open, if we had had additional signups at the December meeting, that we reserved time for those as well. We would have continued had we had more signups. We did get through everyone. Next year, as we approach this, I will do a better job to ask more of my questions in a public forum. I think a lot of folks may not have seen all the responses. I mean, there were dozens and dozens of questions that we sent, but probably it would have been helpful. And I did like the idea of maybe a workshop where people can ask questions and hear the answers live. It is hard to get through. I know there were dozens of pages of responses, and sometimes those are hard to get through. So I like that idea of doing more here, but I do want you all to know that there were dozens and dozens of hours spent behind the scenes going through in great detail.
Dr. Jones, it sounds like you had a conversation with the student government about a budget workshop. What would that look like?
Well, I was just expressing to them, we've tried to do some budget workshops, even with GEA this year. They did a workshop. We did a workshop with GOSA. And this budget, especially this year, was a little tricky to understand, which I think you guys get it, but a lot of people in the community don't, because of the one nuance with that non-lapsing. Right. Student government always asks great questions. I mean, you hear how articulate they are. They ask great questions every single month, and they've been great budget watchers really since last year. They got really engaged. I love it. And I suggested to them, we're happy to do a budget workshop for student government because, the student voice also, we want carrying accurate information. So if they have questions about, anything to do with this budget, we want them to have the correct information too. So that's what the outgrowth of that comment was from.
None. We'll move on to action items. We want to welcome James Waters from the Old Greenwich Building Committee. regular watchers of board meetings will know that we just had Mr. Waters here at our last special meeting on July 5th, where we voted for an interim for the old Greenwich School. However, there's some new information. So in order to get this on the agenda, I have to make a motion. So I would like to make a motion based on which is the recommendation of the building committee. So we're going to start here, and then we'll see where amendments might go. But I would like to make a motion to approve interim funding for the Old Greenwich community, Old Greenwich School, in the amount of $7,648,242.
I'll second.
Thank you. So, James, I told you that I warned you. So what we're going to say here is I was going to ask you off the bat here. So what's new? What's different? Why are we doing this again?
All right. So first, good to see.
And
you.
we're not having the same we're not having last month's conversation over again. So this is purely about what's new. So,
Absolutely. So good to see all of you in person this time. What's new? So the building committee's been working this process pretty hard for since we saw you 10 days ago. I did want to give you a couple things just as examples. We're actively looking at our builder's risk insurance. We think there might be some opportunity for some savings there. Still vetting that. Takes a little bit, as you can imagine. We also have learned that the project may be eligible for additional state reimbursement. We have approved the state has approved somewhere in the ballpark of $9.6 million of reimbursement to the town for the project. However, there is some new legislation that was passed that we believe may actually be a significant augment to that, a little bit premature. There's still some work to be done with our state reps, but I wanted to flag that for you. We also have met with the BET Budget Committee. They endorsed your request. However, they did ask that we come back to you on 3 specific items, which is what we're here today. So I'm not, as Mike said, I'm not going to walk through the whole presentation again. We do have I did share some info if it is, I don't know if it's going to be put on a screen or not, but I know it's in your agenda. But those 3 areas are owner contingency, the roof alternate, and the cornice alternate. There was significant discussion on Tuesday about that, and this would change the interim that you approved 10 days ago. So if we go to the next slide, we've created 4 different scenarios. Scenario 1 on this page is what you have already approved, and I'm on page 2 if you're following along in paper on the screen. Scenario 1 is what you've already approved. I'm not in control of that.
Michael, is it possible to zoom in a little so the numbers are bigger on the screen?
It's going to be difficult, but you want to come forward? You can see it up here. Okay, scenario 1 is what you have already approved last week, so that we're not going to spend any time discussing that. Scenario 2 is a change to the owner contingency for the project, basically increasing the owner contingency to 10%. We did discuss that, but there's some information I want to share with you on that. Scenario 3 is the same thing on the owner contingency, except that we incorporate the roof alternate. And scenario 4 is all of these scenarios build on each other. So scenario 4 is everything in scenarios 1, scenario 2, and 3, except it adds the cornices. Now, I want to point you towards the bottom of the page where the numbers are in red, and you can see the incremental cost in red, the red font of each of these options. Okay. So let's go to the next page and we'll get into this a little bit. So on the owner contingency, this is scenario 2. Okay. So the building committee met Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. as we're prone to do. We voted 6-0-1 to recommend increasing the owner contingency to 10%. I know Mr. McCanty Anthony abstained from that vote because he wanted to have his discussion here. So that's fine. The rest of the building committee felt pretty strongly that we should do that. Here's the thinking that owner contingencies for renovation projects, the rule of thumb is you generally want your owner contingency for renovation to be twice as large as that for a new construction. We learned the day after our meeting with you that the Central Middle School Building Committee owner contingency is 6%. So what you have approved for Old Greenwich is 7%. That is not 2 times 6. We're not asking for 2 times 6, but just flagging that. Reason that's important here is that, in addition to renovations, where there are hidden conditions that new construction avoid, the phasing for this project is critical, right? We need to keep this on track because we're going to be doing significant construction activities in the summer and during school breaks. And then we need to have the school ready for the kids when we're outside of those breaks. I do understand that the BET is likely to insert a condition on this increase of 3%, which would basically make the building committee come back if we needed to access that extra 3%. We are okay with that. That's totally fine. We plan to be, as we always are, transparent with everything. We do all our reports on time. And let me be clear. Any extra funding for contingency will not be used to go to additional alternates or discretionary items. We have to decide those when we decide the GMP. So owner contingency is just that, contingency. Okay. So if you approve that, the total contingency for the project, owner plus construction manager, will be 13%. The input I'm getting from our professional team is that is an acceptable number for a project like this, a renovation of a 120-year-old school. Okay, go to the next slide. We'll talk about
just before you go on. I want to make clear you see 6-0-1. So I, as a member of the building committee, I purposely abstained, really to make it clear that was this was the recommendation of the members of the building committee, and no influence from me or anything like that. So that's why you see me as an abstention there.
Okay, thank you. So let's go to this next slide, scenario 3. This basically incorporates everything we just talked about, but it does reject. So the way we have framed this roof alternate is it is a deduct alternate. That means if you accept it, it cuts it out of the project. Okay. The building committee supports doing this work, but we do deem it a lower priority for the project as a whole than addressing the owner contingency. I will tell you that on January 13th, the BET budget committee members and members of the administration expressed interest in rejecting the roof alternative, given that this roof is 30 years old. And if it's not included in this project, it will be a town capital item within the next 5 years. This roof is not in terrible shape, as we talked about before. It's not leaking. It's not a big problem area, but it's 30 years old, right? It was installed in 1995. We've confirmed that. The incremental, I should note, the roof, this specific roof section is listed in the ed specs. It is eligible for state reimbursement, but adding it to the project would add $528,000. And if we go to the next slide, this is a little diagram just so you can actually see what we're talking about the roofs. Can we go to the next slide? There we go. Okay. So if you look at this slide on blue, we are not touching. Okay. These roof sections have been done in the last 20 years. They do not need to be redone. They need to just follow standard maintenance. The sections in gray are getting redone. The section in yellow is what we're talking about in the alternate. It's over the gym, the cafeteria, the music and art. Those roof sections were installed in 1995 when the addition there was built. I'm going to also note that the roofing bid number that we talked, you remember we saw those little numbers last time. The roofing bid the bid number total is 1.596 million. Okay. So by not doing this, we save 450,000. I think you can kind of see that, it's about 30% savings from the roofing contractor's bid. I don't have an exact number, but that roof section is more than 30%, right? So this is a good rule of thumb on deduct alternates. You don't always get your value, right? And the BET members were the ones who wanted, to kick this back to you guys because they believe it. This is a town capital item. They understand it doesn't threaten the Old Greenwich School project, but they're like, look, we'd rather spend this was people's opinion. They didn't vote on this, right? This is their opinion. We'd rather spend on it now and do it. Building committee's perspective is we will absolutely do this if this is what you want. We are not advocating for it. We would rather get the whole project done. And my understanding is, I don't know if Mr. Branyan or Mr. Watson would like to or need to weigh in at some point. Maybe you'll call on him after. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Speed through this. Scenario 4. Okay. This adds the cornices. This is an add alternate. Okay, there's some strategy as you're putting together that I've been learning from our professional team. There's some strategy on this. This is an add alternate. If you accept it, it adds it to the project. There was on the January 13th, there was some interest in doing the cornices, given that we have infrastructure and labor in place. I will tell you on this one, the building, you're going to notice my tone in this is going to change a little bit. We are lukewarm at best on this one. Okay. We believe this is a potential can of worms, and the scope and cost could increase dramatically if we accept this. So think about it. We're saying we would be telling the contractors, okay, we have money to go and address some of these cornices. Well, they're going to, I'll show you the sections in a second, but they take it off and then they say, well, then you got to also do this next one. And we say, oh, shoot, we don't have money for that. So this is the kind of thing that could snowball. Cornices are expensive, $540 per lineal foot. All right. And plus the construction manager's markup. This is a maintenance item. It is not listed in the ed specs. It is ineligible for state reimbursement. Cost of this, $192,000. So the next slide shows you these cornices. You can see it doesn't highlight all of the cornices in the building. It's just a few sections. It's 300 lineal feet of it. This cornices was never a feature of the OGS ed specs. The building has cornices though, however, right? So the building committee's view on this is, look, if you want us to do this, we'll do it. We are definitely not advocating for that. This one, in fact, we would rather you reject this alternate, as we have. And look, will there be some money that's spent on cornices? Yes. We would use owner contingency to do that if we need it, but only where we need it. We'd rather spend money on the things that we really need to do to get Old Greenwich School, back to, to the current times. All right. Finally, conclusion, and then I'm done, subject to your questions. So the building committee would recommend scenario 2 or scenario 3. Scenario 2 is the owner contingency. Scenario 3 adds the roof. I think the BET is planning to vote on this on Tuesday. The RTM is planning to convene a special meeting to discuss this on February 4th. The committee meetings will be February 2nd. And we need that timeline so that we can get this GMP signed and we can get everything rocking. Thank you.
Thank you, James. So to clarify the question before us, in the building, at our meeting last time, we approved the vote of 8-0, scenario 1, which is if you're able to go back to slide 2, Michael, scenario 1, which is the 7% contingency and no of these alternates. The building committee, the motion on the table is the one that the building committee subsequently voted on at their meeting last week, which is scenario 2, which is moving to the 10% contingency. There is the open question if we want to, as a board, support that, if we want to support that plus the roof, or if we want to support that, the roof and the cornices. In addition to James, Vice Chair Jackie Welsh is online, as is Lawrence Rosati, our owner's rep for the project, as well as Ben and Dan Watson. And Sophie has her hand up, so we'll start with you. Go ahead, Sophie.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to voice my support for scenario 3, and I think the graphic that is presented on, I guess it's page 7, I'm looking at it here. To me, it just intuitively makes sense when you look at those 3 green roofs that are being touched on multiple edges by new roofs, that I just feel like we're asking for a problem. You know, when you have people doing a substantial amount of construction work immediately adjacent to roofs that are nearing the end of their life, I just really worry we're putting many millions of dollars into this building, and I would hate to see that either the roofs are just old and they're damaged and there's leak, or, you know, there's incidental damage to those roofs because of the tremendous amount of construction. So I would love to see them replaced for that reason. And then also, I feel like it just has to be more cost effective to do it in the near term where we're already mobilized to do this work. And I think my last point on this is in the interest of the families and the teachers and the students who are using this building, if we can be efficient in doing construction and getting things done all at once, as opposed to doing an entire construction project, waiting 2 years and then coming back and doing more construction. I just feel like, for me, I have a hard time with rationalizing the impact that would have on our families of like dragging this out further. So I'm really in favor of scenario 3 for that reason.
At our meeting, was it 10 days ago? We had asked about the roof. I was actually, had the same thought as Ms. Colvin. We're into this thing, let's do it. And one of the experts urged us not to do it. He explained to us that there are consultants on this project that are required by the state and so there is extra cost baked into the whole project. And by including the roof into this, we would absolutely be paying more for the roof. He suggested that we basically, do the roof as a separate project. Now, it can be done on the last day. It can be, but he urged us to have 2 separate projects because of the baked-in cost. Has that changed?
So Paul, I had a slightly different recollection of that conversation. I think your points are directionally correct. I think that, so I think you're referring to David Stein, who's our architect. And look, if you don't do this, the roof, let me say it this way. If you accept the roof alternate, you save $450,000 of hard cost. You also save $78,000 of markup, contingency, et cetera. The point I would say, I think in that meeting, if I could hit redo on it, I don't think we gave you an appropriate characterization of the age of that roof. I don't think we gave. That roof is 30 years. It's 30. It's confirmed. It's in the roofing legend. I looked at it this morning. I don't think we accurately conveyed that. I also don't think that in looking at the numbers, if the roofing bid at 1.5 and this alternate at 450, you can see from the roof section that we have a 30% savings for taking out 40% of the project, right? So this is the sort of thing you don't get the value. Now, to Paul's point, you could avoid doing this right now. It is not in dire straits. It is at the end of its useful life. It comes down to like, do you want to be adding this to a future capital budget? If it were me guessing at a future capital, let's thinking out 3 years, right? When this project is done, let's say it was time to go then, I would be surprised if it is less than what we have right now. So because you're going to be having someone do the full project. So I don't know if that's helpful, Paul.
I don't know if it is either. What the gentleman said, I'm reading it. He said less expensive because it's just a roofing contractor coming down and doing their own work, and they're not essentially coexisting, working around a lot of other constructions, a lot of other construction activities. And again, and I think you just repeated it, there is a markup because of the consultants on site. So if this is simply us organizing the projects to have 2 different cover pages and we actually get the jobs done, I agree with everyone that it would be nice to get this done at once. But are we simply ready to cave here and pay the extra money so that it can all be in one folder? Or it's...
Can I offer that Lawrence, is Lawrence been elevated? I think it would be better for Lawrence. Could you maybe speak to this?
Remind everybody who Lawrence is.
Lawrence Rosati is the owner's rep for the project. He has an extensive construction background. Lawrence, could you speak to Paul's question about the roof, the doability, like the desirability of doing it at the same time as a project versus not?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. As James mentioned, the trades are on site to do the work now. It would be scheduled accordingly. To talk about David's prior point, I think James hit upon it well, that there's an additional layer of management with the construction manager. If the town put it out to bid, it would probably be solely bid by a roofing contractor that potentially could do the work over a summer to get in and get out. But the benefit now is the cost. Obviously, in the future, the roof and the materials are going to be more costly. So there is savings for the material cost, which is a definite hard cost associated with, the materials involved in this roof replacement.
Veronica?
My question's very different. I have a question about cornices. I don't know anything about them. What is here are my questions. I'll just list them out. What is their purpose? Why are some of them already being done in the project and others aren't? I think that's enough for my question. That's it for now. Can you give me anything on cornices?
Lawrence, do you want to explain cornices to that level of detail? Oh, you might be muted.
I'm sorry. If you look at the first slide of James's presentation, around the lower portion of the perimeter of the roof, you'll see the eave, and the cornice is the soffit there, and you can see that the school has dental moldings, which is the in and out shape of the wood at the very top of the outside of the building as it wraps towards, yes, exactly, right there. So that is the cornice and soffit and fascia. What the design team did is walked around the building, reviewed that condition throughout parts of the building to generate slide
7,
which depicts the areas that were in need of significant repair. If you've walked the school, you can see there's some of the areas are rotted, missing, they're in dire need of replacement. So that is why the design team highlighted those select areas and called for removal and replacement of the cornices / fascia around the building.
And would that, so can I ask a follow-up? And would that, when you do the removal of the areas that are rotted, could that potentially open a can of worms? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me just take 20 seconds to explain Lawrence's role, because not everybody might be familiar with owner's rep, particularly folks at home. So the owner's rep is our consultant on the project. He's not a general contractor. He's not the one building the project. He's the one hired by the district basically to have our back. He evaluates all aspects of the project to make sure that things are efficient and appropriate. So his job is solely to represent us as the owner. So that's Lawrence's role. Karen?
Sorry, I had a few questions quickly. I know at our last meeting, I also supported having a 10% contingency for multiple reasons. I'd rather have money now and be able to give it back to the town than have to go ask again. So I am personally asking questions about the roof. So the question is, if we do not do the roof, right, the additional pieces of roof, right? If that roof fails, because you said it's towards the end of its life expectancy, has maybe 5 more years. If that roof fails and causes any damages to the new construction or other areas of the building, like who would then be responsible for fixing it and financially? So if we have them do these fixes now and do the roof that's got maybe 5 more years, we all know how things work in this town, and we've had some issues in the past with things that we thought would last longer than they did. Would the current construction company be responsible should there be issues with when we put a new roof on? And if the old roof fails and damages any issues, anything we've just done, how does that work? Fun question, sorry.
I have a feeling it would be a significant hit to our owner contingency if that were to happen. I don't know that I'm the right person to answer those questions on liability. Lawrence, do you have something to add in terms of, others being responsible? I mean, my main thing is if something were to happen during construction and we had to fix it, to re-roof it, we would then have to go and do it, and it would be a change order, and it would probably be a change order for a larger amount than the 450. Because all of the pricing on these alternates expire 90 days from the bids. So we have to accept it by then or it goes away. Lawrence, anything you would add in terms of like liability on that?
No, I mean, if the roof starts to fail, obviously there would be leaks that would have to be addressed. Obviously it would be in a new building, of course, then facilities would have to address that. If you had a new roof, then you would be less suspect to having water damage in the future.
Because it looks to me scenario 3, you said is a deduct alternative, so it would remove it from the project. So it's
no. It accepts it. It rejects the roof alternate and includes it in the project.
Okay. Double checking, because it was a double negative. I just wanted to clear.
That's right. It is double.
If scenario 3 is accepted, we are adding roof, not reducing.
We will be doing the entire roof.
Okay.
Or the yellow section of the roof.
Right. So that would save money from doing it 5 years from now, where costs would probably go up, and we'd also be impacting the educational, ability for students. If it runs over, then if we do it over the summer, no. But if it runs over summer, it's into the fall, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it were not done by us, it would be done when the district does other roofing projects. I would guess is in the summer. So
right,
but you're right. It would add costs now, and versus likely higher costs down the road.
So that leads me to second question, which was you noted that it would be eligible if we added it now for state reimbursement, correct?
Correct.
Do we know how much of a reimbursement that would be? because obviously if we know the cost, you said was it 450K to add the extra roof?
Yep.
We can deduct, I mean, yes, we pay that up front. We also know we're going to get money back from the state. How much would that be?
Our reimbursement rate is 20% for this project, and I'm excluding the extra 15% that we are investigating right now. And
Right. So let's just say, it's 450 that we put up front. We get 20% of that back. If we do it in 5 years, the cost for labor and materials will probably be more. As we all know, costs go up, and we would not be eligible for any state reimbursement at that point.
no, that's not correct.
Okay. That's why I'm asking.
You would be roofing projects, as I think our architect did say last time, roofing projects do have state reimbursement even when done separate.
Even if it's just a partial.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's as long as it fits the specs and the timeline. But this roof is eligible today for reimbursement, and it'll be eligible in 5 years. It'll be eligible in 10 years if it lasts that long.
Thank you.
Karen and then Bob.
Just a couple clarifications and a question. But to be clear, I, like others up here, certainly support ensuring that our schools are safe and sound and that we build these correctly. For those who didn't see the hour-long meeting, I do want to clarify that we ask about all of these items that have come back. The strong and unanimous recommendation of the building committee and all of the experts was option one. So I don't want the public to think that, we cheaped out, we rejected what the ask was. The 8-0 unanimous vote was the recommended scenario of the building committee at the time 10 days ago. And I know there's been a little discussion of, oh, well, this is a renovation. I think just for clarification, some of this is new build. There's a new section being built and some is renovation. So we're probably somewhere between those two. And sorry, Veronica, your question on the cornices though, they're decorative, not structural. My question for you though is that, the building committee 10 days ago had absolute certainty in their recommendations. I'll spare you the direct quotes, but there was as we pushed you and asked you to add more, do you need more? There was absolute certainty that no. So my question is, do we need to delay this vote to give you more time to diligence anything else? Is there anything else where you were certain that now you're not feeling so certain?
That's an interesting question. So these projects are inherently lots of balls in the air. I don't know if you've ever worked on one. Lots of balls in the air at the same time over the holidays, people working them, receiving a GMP 2 days before Christmas, working through Christmas, trying to do our best to hold the line on numbers. I did learn January 6th, the day after we met, about Central's owner contingency. I do know that many of you know I am the chair of the RTM budget committee. We are very disciplined about asking building projects about their owner contingency. We are always very diligent about asking renovation projects to make sure they have roughly twice the contingency of new construction. We have always been trying to work with 7. I think the general feedback we've been getting from members of both caucuses on the BET and from members of the RTM and from building committee members is, after we've had 10 days to think about this, is that 10% is more prudent.
Sorry, just to clarify, first of all, I don't want anyone to walk away with the impression that I'm not extremely grateful for all the work the building committee has done. I think most people know this is largely volunteers who are doing this on nights and weekends. And I appreciate that folks have worked really hard. What I was asking is, do you need more time?
No.
I had a question, and I also wanted to ask if Dan Watson could weigh in after my question, just about what with his knowledge and expertise, what he thinks the best scenario is. To kind of follow up on Karen Hirsch's questions about the roof, another thing that I think about that might be concerning is if we have someone work on the roof now and then have someone work on the roof in 4 or 5 years, and then there's an issue with the roof, will we have two companies arguing that it's the other company's onus or responsibility to fix whatever problems there are? And again, I know that's a hypothetical, but it's just a concern of mine.
Look, I think the reality everyone is going to have to embrace with this school, and I would guess other schools as well, is that roughly every 10 years you're going to need some sort of a roof replacement at this building, right? That's how it's been staggered, right? That you had the 1995 edition, then 10, 12 years later you had a roof section replaced, then 10, 11 years later you had another roof section replaced. So this is kind of very common. I'm personally less worried about that. I'm not going to, try and say that there would be contractor squabbles. I mean, that's not really my place, but you should just know that really every 10 years, there is a roof section in this building that will get replaced, and that will continue far out into the future.
That makes sense. Thank you. And I was also curious if, put Dan Watson on the spot, as I love to do, if he wanted to weigh in on this. And while we're waiting, I'll just say the RTM members know a lot about double negatives. Reject the rejection.
Yeah, that's right. Usually when it comes to.
Dan, are you?
Dan, are you there?
I'm trying. Two things. James is spot on. It's unfortunate that, we have to leapfrog roofs like that. But it is common whenever you add an addition onto a building, you're adding a roof, and it might not coincide with the existing building. It may be a different product, maybe whatever. The area that we're talking about that's part of the contract is a flat roof. The area that is not being considered, or that we're talking about today, is a pitched roof. So it's two different type of scenarios. We haven't had any visual leakage in that part of the building. Date-wise, James is spot on. It's at its close to its end of its life term. We've got some good things. There's some tree shade around it to keep the UV off of it in some of the areas. So I'm not saying that absolutely should be done at this moment. Obviously, I'd like things done to save time and effort. But I'm going to leave this up to the professionals who have put their hands and eyes on this a little bit closer than I have.
While we're summoning people virtually, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Ben, I don't know if you could. I know you're out there too. I don't know if you could talk about where the roof is in current capital lines, because we talk about how we have a roof line as part of the annual capital budget, and where this project would typically fall.
So looking at the 5-year capital plan that the board approved, in 5 years, we have a total of $8 million for roofs throughout the district. This school is not included in the 5-year capital plan for roofs, simply because the existing building committee, the thought when this was developed, it would be dealt with through the building committee. And I know you don't have the capital plan in front of you, but I do. And the comment here, we said when we built the 27 capital budget, is we removed $1 million from the plan because Riverside Building Committee. So it's the practice we do is when there's a building committee, particularly with this, the scope is still being worked out, we would remove it from the capital plan, avoiding the double dipping where we're including the project in two different places, which then overinflates your overall capital plan. So that's been our practice. But the long answer to your question is Old Greenwich is not included of roof replacement in the capital plan. But capital plan is a living, breathing document. We would modify it going forward if the board and the RTM and BET chooses not to include the roof that's in the scenario 3 in front of you. we would work offline on where does it make sense to plug that into future capital plans.
Is it fair to say we do roof projects pretty much every summer?
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Go ahead, Karen.
So I just wanted to double check. So I know you said that OG's roof, which we know is about 5 years left of its lifespan, was not included in our 5-year plan. Was that not included specifically because there was an assumption that the building committee might ask to have it done? And, in general, comparing to the other $8 million that we have in that capital plan for roofs for 5 years from now, like what are you suggesting the cost might be, whatever, per square foot in 5 years? Or what are you planning for other schools that are having roof replacements? I'm just curious.
Just for a point of reference, we have Hamilton Avenue scheduled for fiscal year 28, so 2 years out at 1.5. Julian Curtis, same period, 28 for 1.1. We refresh these numbers every year. In year 329, we have Eastern Middle School at 1.2. The year we're talking about that we're building for 26, 27, we have $500,000 from North Street for A&E work. And then a couple years later, we have another $1 million to start actually doing the replacement. So it always depends on the size of the roof. And I think James framed it nicely that the odds that if we're going to put this roof in future capital project, it likely will be more expensive than what it is in front of you today.
Right. That's why I was saying I was just trying to guesstimate and have an understanding for the board. If we choose to do this now, we know it's sort of X per square foot. And if in 5 years, I was wondering what your estimation might be per square foot. So we have a general understanding of what paying for it now versus in 5 years might be of a differential that we're making. I understand for me, cornices, I was going to agree with Karen, very decorative, it's fine. If it doesn't look perfection, it's fine. But a roof is a little different. We don't want any, issues. I'm just trying to see what the cost escalation might be for waiting 5 years that we have to add into our budget then.
I don't have that granular detail.
Can I just sharing something that our construction manager shared with the BET 2 days ago. Right now, they're assuming another year, like a year's delay would be 4% right now. Right. I think in the last 12 months, we've seen significantly more than that. But that's at least a year.
So I'm not a math major, but let's say 5 years, 4% each year. We'd be basically giving back the 20% we'd be getting back from the state. So we're saving 20% now. We'd be saving 20% then, but we possibly could be spending 20% more in 5 years. Ish,
All right. I see your hand, Paul. I'm also cognizant that we're spending a lot of time on the roof question. So go ahead.
I mean, I think if we could go back 5 years, we could pay a lot less for the roof as well. So I'm probably going to need a car in 5 years. I'm not going to buy it now and put it in the garage. I'm going to be, the money that I have in my 401k is going to grow. Inflation is going to grow. And this argument of it's going to be more expensive is something we deal with all of our lives. I remember putting a dime in the Coca-Cola machine when I was in high school. So I think we can bank on that being relative. Again, I'm back. One of the things that I wanted to reiterate is you said that the BET felt that this increase was appropriate, the 7 to 10%. That the RTM thought it was appropriate and that the building committee thought it was appropriate. But what I didn't hear is that the experts who were here last week who told us that it wasn't appropriate, did they change their minds as well?
So, Paul, I think what we're talking about here is the owner contingency, right? I think that this is a decision more for the town than what we actually should be looking at our professionals for. Personally, I asked them for their comps, for examples. I can tell you that the town ran into a massive problem with the Hamilton Avenue School, and one of the issues that was highlighted to me by Mike Mason, who was a former member of the BET, as you know, is that it had too small an owner contingency for a renovation project. It had 5%. His recommendation to me was, you need twice that. And that was 3 years ago. That was his recommendation. So I'm looking at this from a sort of town planning, preservation of what we actually need to happen. I think the building committee discussed it with our professionals on Tuesday. And we discussed this with our professionals in front of the BET. And, I think they expressed their support for whatever they think is the right number for the town. So that, we always ask for their input. And on this one, I think the building committee is unanimous on this.
Thank you. Fair answer. I want to point out, I mean, we may seem defensive here, right? But we were here 10 days ago and we had a totally different experience. So, allow us some latitude on this, the public, if you weren't here 10 days ago and watching our meetings. But I want to also point out that I don't think any of us are saying we shouldn't do the roof. I'm absolutely advocating for the roof, but I'm just advocating it for the way in which it was recommended, where it's going to cost us less money. We'll still save the 20% and we'll save the 5, 10, 15, or 20% that we are going to be overpaying because of all of the consultants on this particular job. So I think that we have 2 or 3 years to organize for this, make sure we get the roof project set to dovetail with the end of this and save money everywhere and have a roof. The 20% bonding, the additional contracting free, the problem that one of the experts said, which is basically the contractors tripping over each other and that causing it to be more. So again, we all want a new roof. It's just how we do it. And what I'm advocating for is as a second line item in a second project that we can get off the ground right away.
Look, and the markup is material, right? It's about 17%. So, and that includes the contingency for that roof section. That does include the construction manager. It includes the insurance and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's the.
So you're saying that we're spending 17% more because of the fact that it's going to get baked into another project.
The cost of this roof section, the deduct alternate, the value of it is $450,000. The additional markup is $78,000. So 40, that gets you the 528 that I put in there. And so if you do that markup, that's 17.3%.
Okay. By separating the project, we're still saving the 20% and now we're saving 37%.
I don't know.
Let's
I don't know about all that.
so let's back up for a second because so there's a motion on the table, right? So and I think we have to move on here. Because we've got other things here, but there's a motion on the table around the 10% contingency. I'm not hearing a lot of support for scenario 4 for all the reasons James stated. That's clear. So I think we can rule out scenario 4 with the cornices. When you run for re-election now, Veronica, you can say cornices expert. In 4 years. And then the question is the roof, where a lot of this conversation has been. My thought, for all honesty, it seems like no one is saying, our job here. I wonder if this is almost a reverse of the stay in your lane conversation that we often have with the BET, in that our job at the Board of Ed is to protect our facilities and make sure that they are maintained properly and funded adequately. The BET's role, and we often have conversations about this, the BET's role is funding decisions and how to fund. I almost wonder if in this case, we're all saying that at some point the roof needs to be remodeled. Needs to be fixed, probably at some point in the next 5 years. Quite frankly, I'm agnostic if it's more appropriate to do it from a fiduciary standpoint, it's more appropriate to do it now, or if it's more appropriate to do it 3 years from now. I almost think that is for the BET to decide how they want to pay for the roof that we say that all our experts are saying probably is going to need to be replaced in the next 5 years. I know they asked us to weigh in on it, and it sounds like our experts are saying, well, it's got 5 years, it doesn't have more than that. We can do it now or we can do it later. You're the finance guys. So this might be something for your court. But in the meantime, we're ready to go with this project. We're going to move forward. It's almost a reverse of kind of the usual conversation we have with them about lanes. But this is really a financial decision. Let them figure out when they want to fund it. We heard we have a roof line in our capital budget every year. It's not going to be difficult for us to do this in the summertime. This is not disrupting classroom instruction or whatnot. If they feel it is more financially wise to do it as part of the capital project, fine. If we feel it's more part do it as part of this project, I think that's fine too. We're saying we need to do it at some point. Go ahead, Bob.
And I'll be very brief because I want to move on, and James probably wants to go to sleep at some point tonight. I think that they did do that. I think that's why they sent this to us to look at scenario 3, scenario 4, scenario 2. They broke it down for us to look at.
They just says look at.
Right. Right. I'm sorry. Yes, that's true. But I think that we have these scenarios in front of us, and I think that, like you said, maybe scenario 4 is not something we would think. But do we want to just make a motion to vote on scenario 3, and if that doesn't pass, then scenario 2? I will make a motion to vote on scenario 3.
I'd happily say.
Well, actually, technically, no, sorry. You're amending, sorry. So what you want to do is you want to amend the motion on the table to reflect the money value of scenario 3.
Right. I'll make a motion to amend what's on the table of scenario 2 to scenario 3.
Okay.
I'll happily second that.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second to amend the original motion to reflect a scenario 3. Is there any further discussion on that? Oh, go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say the only reason why is because we're going to finish this project and then a year later ask for the money for the roof. I'd rather give it to the BET. It's up to us to manage our buildings. It's not up to the BET. We know that they've underfunded. I mean, it's been put in our capital plan every year and our master plan that it's been underfunded for our renovations for our school buildings. I'd rather put it in. And if they're not willing, and if they don't want to pay for it now, that's fine. That's their decision. But it's our responsibility for the upkeep of our schools and the safety of our students and our staff that's within them.
All right. Wendy, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I just, to Paul's point, if I needed a new roof on my house, I wouldn't do it until I actually needed it or close to it. It has 5 more years left in it. And we were here last week and everything was fine with the 7% contingency. And I agree, we should probably let the BET figure out when they're going to fund it. I want our schools to be safe. I want them to be safe, and I think we should fund a roof, but let's not.
Okay, let's all right, quickly, Paul.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I was understood. I'm not suggesting we wait until a year after the project. I'm suggesting that we start looking at putting the roof in, doing the due diligence. You can start tomorrow. It just needs to be a separate project so we can save the 17%. Yeah, just like a no-brainer. So I'm not suggesting we wait. I'm not suggesting we wait for something to fail. I'm simply suggesting that we do this in the most financially responsible way there is.
All right, let's call the question then. Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table? 3. Looks like 3 in favor of 4. Um, Sophie, are you raising your head?
Yes, I'm raising my hand.
All right, 5 in favor, opposed? Abstentions? 1. Okay. Wendy abstained. Motion passes. So with endings.
Where
What's
did you,
that?
did you vote?
I opposed. I voted
Okay.
opposed. Okay, so motion passes. So we are, we can move on. So that is scenario 3. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much.
After that thrilling roofing conversation, we want to bring up Julie Freniers from the Greenwich Alliance.
And I have some slides too. Thank you. So the slides, just so you know, when I start talking, there is, if you don't have them in front of you, you may want to look because I'm not going to be reading the slides. I'm going to be giving you additional information. So good evening, Chairman Mercanti Anthony, Dr. Jones, members of the Board of Education, Greenwich Public School educators, PTAC, and the community. My name is Julie Freniers, and I am the Executive Director of the Greenwich Alliance for Education. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to present to you tonight. For the benefit of new board members and old board members, I will give a brief overview about the Alliance and our role with the Greenwich Public Schools and share some data. The highlight for you, I'm sure, will be hearing from current and former GPS students who have benefited from the Greenwich Public Schools and from the Greenwich Alliance. Alexis Cervantes, Jihao Luau, Yusuf Syed, Michael Morales, and Grace Shellcatch. Next slide, please. Greenwich Alliance for Education is the only education foundation for Greenwich Public Schools and is a registered 501c3 nonprofit. It was started in 2006 by a group of community members in consultation with Dr. Larry Leverett, the superintendent, with the focus on leveraging community resources, building partnerships, and being responsive and agile for the Greenwich Public Schools so the educational success of all students could be realized. We have recently completed a 3-year strategic plan and updated our mission and added core values which reflect our work every day. And those are on your screen. As of June 2025, we reached $5.6 million in program support, and we can bucket this investment into the following categories: arts, STEM, college and career, mental health, and wellness. All schools have benefited from various programs over the years. Next slide, please. Our program, Tuning into Music. Tuning into Music is our longest running program. Greenwich Public School music teachers nominate students who demonstrate a commitment to improving their skills as musicians. The Connecticut School of Music teaches and administers the lessons after school. On average, 64 students are enrolled in Tuning into Music each year, and we spend $110,000. When I met with the Greenwich Public School arts teachers in August and asked them why the arts matter, they said that for students who play instruments, it creates a sense of belonging, a place to shine, and elevates self-esteem. For teachers who have students who are part of Tuning into Music, they say, I find that their progress with me has been positively impacted and their confidence in their own ability has also grown. My student that began this year is quickly catching up to peers who have the ability to practice at home. Tuning into Music has brought these students up to grade level. And students enrolled in Tuning into Music are passionate about playing and become leaders in our Western middle school ensembles.
It was nice to see tuning into music students performing at the Greenwich High School candlelight concert, and recently announced one tuning into music student who plays the flute at Greenwich High School will also be part of Western Regionals. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to have you hear from Alexis Cervantes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alexis Cervantes, and I was born and raised in Greenwich over in Riverside. A little about me. I am the program coordinator at Greenwich United Way, and I oversee the volunteer and community service opportunities for all of the middle school and high school students in the area. And on top of that, I'm also a music teacher. I'm the interim music teacher for the lower school at King's School. I teach at a program called Speak Music, where I teach the flute, recorder, trumpet, saxophone. And last but not least, I work at the nonprofit Project Music, where I'm the flute teaching instructor. And none of this would have ever been possible without the Greenwich Alliance's Tuning Into Music program. My family didn't have the financial means for music lessons growing up, and this program made that opportunity possible for me, both me and my sister. I was part of Tuning Into Music for about 8 years until I graduated GHS in 2020. And during those 8 years, I had the privilege of studying flute under Sharon Levin. She was a wonderful teacher who made learning how to play flute so much fun, and I fell in love with my instrument, and I found such great joy in playing, even when the level got really challenging. I began auditioning for programs and performing with the Young Artists Philharmonic, a youth orchestra group now based in Greenwich. Sorry, I lost my place. I've had the incredible opportunity to perform at Carnegie Hall, Yale's Woolsey Hall, as well as with the GHS band in Ireland for about a week. And my flute teacher at Tuning Into Music guided me through all of that and gave me all of her support. Having a great teacher, one that connects with you, can have a lasting impact on students' lives. Because of my flute teacher, I was inspired to become a music teacher myself. I also work alongside my Eastern Middle School band teacher, Mr. Homeister. And the best part about it was on my first day, he remembered me, and it was great. Along with teaching, I've returned as a volunteer for the Young Artists Philharmonic, where every Sunday we rehearse, and I rehearse alongside my former flute teacher, Sharon. If it weren't for Tuning Into Music, I honestly don't know what career I'd be pursuing. Music has been a huge part of my life for so long, and I'm deeply grateful to have been a part of this program. It allowed me to discover my passion, turn it into a career, and now I get to give back to the community that helped make it possible and shaped who I am today. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Reaching Out Grants. Reaching Out Grants is the way the Alliance learns about exciting new educational ideas from Greenwich Public School educators. Some say our grants are the R&D arm for the schools. Every school in the district has benefited from a grant, and I have had the pleasure and opportunity to work with many outstanding educators who have been awarded grants over the years. This year, we are funding 7 grants for $170,000. The big innovative grant is happening at Greenwich High School. Students and teachers are trialing 2 different AI innovative student-facing tools, Conmingo and School AI. Other grants are theater programs at New Lebanon and JC, Avid Professional Development for Hamilton Avenue teachers, and I want to say we are so excited that next year Avid will be offered K-12 in our district. Kindergarten after-school program at Hamilton Avenue School, and middle school grants, Book Break, and Science Bowl teams. We've launched the 26-27 application this week for our grants and look forward to receiving many submissions, which are due on February 23rd. I'm available to have conversations to discuss grant ideas. It is always rewarding to hear how grants are making a difference. It happened so that today I received this email from Ariel Wilshaw, ALP teacher at Julian Curtis and Grant Theater champion, and she got this note from a parent. Ariel, I want to thank you for your leadership and coaching throughout the play practices. I am not surprised that my son has taken a strong liking for the play, rehearsals, singing, and acting. I had imagined him wandering throughout the house, singing and rehearsing with me, and this has actually come true. He sequesters himself to his room to sing, memorize, and just enjoy the experience overall. He talks a lot to himself, encouraging and coaching himself throughout the process. It is just amazing to see. Next slide, please. And now I'd like to introduce Yusuf and Jayao, who will speak about the Eastern Middle School Science team.
Hi, my name is Yusuf and I'm from Eastern Middle School. Before I begin, I'd like to thank Mrs. Farinyers for giving us this opportunity to be here today. Over the past 3 years, I've been a member of Eastern Middle School Science Team. It has been incredibly exciting to have a team like this at our school. And one of the main reasons we are able to have a club like this is because of Greenwich Alliance. I would like you to imagine a group of students staying after school, not because they have to, but because they want to, working together to solve problems and challenging themselves. A recent example of this is when we learned about how a homopolar motor works. While doing this, we were guided by our teacher, Mr. Lodato, on how electricity creates motion. Using just a battery, magnet, and wire to generate continuous rotations. This is what the science team is like for us. I love being a part of the science team because we get to challenge ourselves, collaborate, and grow our passion for science. Our trips, competitions, and study sessions make learning engaging and meaningful. Something that I learned from these sessions is taxonomy, the classifications of life. Now, I have a much better understanding of it. Because of hands-on activities and teamwork, the science team helps students build critical thinking and problem-solving skills. It encourages curiosity, builds confidence, and allows us to apply what we learn in class to real-world situations, like driving a car. In this case, you'd be using Newton's first law, as the amount you push on the acceleration is an unbalanced force. A place where we especially use this information is during competitions. We have an important competition coming up on February 21st, and we are hoping to finally claim that first place spot. Over the past few years, we have come very close, and each experience motivates us to push even harder. Overall, the science team is an amazing environment for learning, growth, and collaboration. Thank you for listening. Now I will hand it over to Jahal.
Thank you, Yusuf. So, hi everybody. My name is Jahal Luo, and I'm an 8th grader at Eastern Middle School, and I've been in Science Bowl for 3 years. And I just wanted to say that it's a real pleasure to be in this room, and I'm just here to talk about the Science Bowl experience. So, Science Bowl is a really great opportunity to not only challenge yourself academically, but also socially. For instance, I've made quite a few close friends in Central and Western just through Science Bowl. Science Bowl is also a team activity, and it encourages the values of cooperation. But not only cooperation, it provides leadership, self-worth, and a deep sense of purpose. As a team, we value every team member and make sure that they feel included and motivated. This year, we are excited to represent our school and to compete in regionals, knowing we have strong prospects. I'd like to end it by saying thank you to all the people out there who have made Science Bowl possible. My gratitude knows no bounds. Thank you.
I want you just to turn around just a minute. On the back of their shirts, it very nicely says sponsored by the Greenwich Alliance for Education.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Well done. Next slide, please. Avid success. In 2008, the Alliance funded the implementation of AVID at Greenwich High School. For those unfamiliar with AVID, AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination and is an internationally recognized college readiness system designed to close the achievement gap and promote equity and access in education. AVID Success is the umbrella for all the ways we support AVID teachers, students, and alumni. Trish Rohr, Assistant Director, meets regularly with Aaron Rizzio, AVID District Director, Mara Subak, Greenwich High School AVID Coordinator, and the AVID educators to discuss programming ideas and identify unmet needs. 2 years ago, we brought the Greenwich Public School program coordinators to the AVID National Conference for Professional Development. For Avid seniors, we coordinate volunteers who are professional college consultants to work one-on-one with students to edit and polish their essays to ensure they, like their peers, are submitting a high-quality college application. Avid success goes well beyond middle school and high school. We have an Avid Alumni Advisory Council and offer many professional skills, workshops, and events to build the networks for these young adults. Last Thursday, we had our first career affinity group about finance, and we recently completed our scholarship awards of $160,000. Please watch for an invitation to join our board meeting on February 18th to learn about Avid K-12 with Judy Barbera, Avid Eastern Regional Director. Next slide. Now I'd like to have you hear from Michael Morales, followed by Grace Shelcash.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and Dr. Jones. I am Michael Morales, a sport management major at Ithaca College. I'm also an Eagle Scout and president of IC Rugby. After hearing about Avid from some friends in 8th grade and seeing my older sister go to uni in Boston, Suffolk, I wanted to prepare for my future, so I sought out Avid. Ms. Ostruska was my Avid teacher, and she was great, always giving guidance to my fellow peers and I about her college experience and sharing it to us all the time. Additionally, we attended campus tours of in-state colleges and universities, which gave us valuable insight on how to choose which college I wanted to attend financially, offered majors and minors, and just overall appeal of campus. This is where the Greenwich Alliance stepped in and became a lot more involved with our college process. Trish came into our class multiple times throughout the years to introduce us to events within the Alliance, but also to introduce us to T2C, Tradition to College. Through that program, I learned the survival skills for college, like budgeting, scheduling classes, and finding a balance between academics and a social life. For the last 2 years, I've come back to T2C as a mentor this time, assisting newly graduated Avid students in preparing for college, as well as supporting the Alliance. But beyond that, I learned that I can really, truly depend on the Alliance. To me, the Greenwich Alliance is a second family. The two biggest takeaways from my Avid journey are self-advocacy and time management. I apply these skills in my daily life, whether I'm seeking assistance from professors, the financial aid office, academic centers, or connecting with other professionals in the sports industry. And to be honest, the first time I had to reach out to a professor, I was nervous, embarrassed, and a little hesitant. Doing things for the first time is scary, but I had to do it. That is one of the things Avid has taught me, to always advocate for myself. Looking back at that nervous middle schooler that didn't know if he made it into Avid after going through interviews, I'm so proud of how far I've come. I want to thank the Greenwich Alliance and the Avid program for not only assisting me through the college application process, but ensuring that I had the abilities to thrive once I arrived. As I progressed from college into the professional world, I'm looking for opportunities in the sports industry. So if anyone here in attendance would like to chat more after, I'm seeking for an internship or job over the summer in operations, partnerships, and/or marketing. Thank you for investing in my journey.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education and Superintendent Jones. I'm Grace Shelcash, a sophomore at University of Connecticut studying economics, and I've also just come back after completing a semester abroad in London studying business and economics. I'm originally from Albania, and I moved to the USA about 7 years ago. Also proud to say that I have just become a citizen. As a first-generation student, I had the opportunity of being part of the AVID program and also being involved with the Greenwich Alliance from very early on in my high school journey. I went through the AVID interview process in 7th grade, and I became a member of AVID in 8th grade. This experience was truly eye-opening, and it really opened me to a new world of opportunities, especially as an immigrant to this new country. Greenwich Alliance has been a huge support during my professional and academic journey, not just during high school, but also during college. This is something very important to me. I'm an AVID alumni, and this program helped me develop personally and academically very early on, setting me up for college success. I had the opportunity to be in an AVID class taught by Mr. Bassa, and I'm forever grateful to have been part of this family, not just in middle school, but also in high school. AVID shaped my journey for college by making me a dedicated individual. not just from academics, but also in my professional development, which has been super helpful in my journey as a woman in finance. And most importantly, they have always been there as support in my Avid family and also just supportive of me. Additionally, the Greenwich Alliance has been a huge support during my professional and academic journey, especially in college. After completing my senior internship at Greenwich Alliance, I quickly noticed how efficient and beneficial this organization is for students. And again, not just in middle and high school, but also through the numerous supportive programs post-graduation, where they consistently serve as a support system for students whenever they need guidance. I became part of the Avid Alumni Council, which was a very helpful resource, and it is always hosting events through the Greenwich Alliance. This council is a way for Avid alumni to stay in touch and also be innovative with new solutions and new events and resources that can be helpful to Avid overall, because we all work as a unit at the end of the day. Additionally, other services for students, like the Transition to College program, which I went through as a senior graduate and also went back as a mentor. The college application prep work and also the Transition to College help was very helpful as an Avid student. During college application prep, I was given a tutor to help me with the writing of my college essays. I want to preface a free tutor, and this tutor was beyond helpful and also ensured that I was given the right support in such a competitive phase, where I was hearing from my friends that they had these private tutors, and I always wanted that opportunity. As a first-generation student, the Transition to College program was the most helpful bridge to college program during the summer after senior year of high school, where participants, including myself, were given numerous resources and also just adulting lessons, what it means to be a college student, how to stay prepared, and also just hear back from other Avid alumni who had advice to share. I am very proud that I have gone back as a mentor my second time to transition to college. Additionally, the financial compensation coming from this attendance was a game changer for many students who wanted to make sure that they were financially supported for college. Additionally, the Greenwich Alliance Avid Scholarship has been the most notable part of my journey so far, because it has given me a chance to stay in school and just also encouraged me to excel in college. This financial support means a lot to me as a first-generation college student whose parents work 3 jobs to ensure that I can stay in school and pursue my dreams academically and professionally. Having the opportunity to be part of this program always ensures students who are in the same situation as me are financially supported, and that is something that has supported my journey the most. After completing my senior internship at Greenwich Alliance, I quickly noticed how this organization has just been so beneficial for all students overall. And I think that the most notable thing is that I want to preface, I still get on the phone with Julie and Trish, who are such a good supportive system as a sophomore in college. And although I have made sure I've done those programs during high school and even right after college, they're still a good support, even if it is networking opportunities, academic support. I think that their impact goes well beyond just their programs, but also just them as supportive people. And big thank you to the Greenwich Alliance for all that they have done for me. Thank you so much.
Okay, so next slide, please. So how are we funded? So to do all we do for Greenwich Public Schools, we need to raise money. Turkey Trot was the largest race ever with nearly 1,800 registrants. Congrats again to Cos Cob Parkway for winning the school competition. To raise more money, we need new sponsors and to increase participation from all Greenwich Public Schools. Sign up today or donate an auction item for Trivia Challenge, which is February 27th. The theme is 1776. I bet GPS teachers will win top prizes again this year. And I'm putting it out there, Board of Ed, maybe you all get a table together and see how you compete. Okay. This is your year. I think so too. Other funding sources come from grant requests to local organizations and foundations, and those are named up on the slide. And we also welcome introductions. We always welcome introductions to new potential funders. Thanks to everyone who has already donated to our annual campaign. And if you haven't, go to greenwichalliance.org. We also need more donations from individuals who believe in the mission of the Alliance, that public education matters. Next slide. So the Alliance supports the schools, the public supports the Alliance with lots of participation in the annual trivia challenge and the annual turkey trot. And in the middle slide, it just mentions it shows a picture of our top sponsors for turkey trot this year, which is Exclusive Homes, Cadillac, Hospital for Special Surgery, and 400 Capital. Next slide, please. Working together, Greenwich Public Schools, Board of Ed, and the Greenwich Alliance. We value a strong direct partnership with Greenwich Public Schools and the Board of Education. For the continued success of the schools, the students, and the Alliance, we need to be sitting side by side at the table. The Alliance has helped in our mission by continued recognition in Greenwich Public School reports and in communications from schools to parents. Thanks to Jonathan Sopranowitz and Dr. Jones for including the Alliance in many district digests. In addition, it is helpful when building principals and PTAs include information about the grant projects happening in your schools and encouraging participation in the fundraising events in your newsletters. The sharing data helps us tell important stories to the community about the impact we are making for all students. And let's always make sure to have a two-way dialogue when developing big thinking ideas. And also, please participate, donate, and volunteer. Next slide, please. What's next? September 26th marks the beginning of our 20th anniversary celebration. Stay tuned. We're working on lots of different ideas, so hopefully we'll narrow it down soon. Interested in volunteering for that, please let me know. Avid college students are looking to learn more about careers in the past to get to a great job. To help them, we plan to offer more career affinity groups. For instance, PR and marketing has so many different jobs. How can we help? How can we break it all down? Our strategic plan is posted on the website, and we are working on action steps now. We'll be hosting a community rollout later this year. And bottom line, we are committed to growing and expanding our impact with the Greenwich Public Schools. Next slide, please. So thank you for letting me speak tonight and hearing from the students. Funding innovation, expanding opportunities, inspiring educators, that's what we do. Any questions?
Thank you, Julie. I know I speak for all of us when I say how much we value our partnership and everything that you personally and the Alliance and Gia and everybody does for our kids. And the voices of the alumni in particular tonight really hammer home really all the amazing work over the last 19 years and counting that the Alliance has done. So we really appreciate your time here to give us all more of a glimpse into that. With that, I'll open up. I see. Go ahead, Karen. I knew you were. I was always going to call you first, Karen.
No, that's fine. I was going to say I kind of wanted to echo what Mike was saying. As someone who's been involved, supporting the Alliance as a parent, PTAC on the board, I just wanted to, reiterate what you said, what Mike said. Like, we could not do this without the Alliance and without you, Julie. You are certainly. When we think of Alliance, it is always you and your strong voice and advocacy for the programs that you've brought to our schools. And I think it's really important that everything that you guys do helps support our strategic plan goals. The things that people don't realize that you guys have funded or that have been so successful in many ways for our student, the Innovation Lab at GHS. You guys had another one, Going Places with Books, the Bookmobile, which my kids absolutely loved until they were taken out by a tree. Not my kids, the Bookmobile, that is.
Bad ending. Yeah.
Yes, to be clear, the Odyssey,
Yes.
and the other programs, much like you said, the Science Bowl was also, you guys funded things like Odyssey of the Mind. So it's always finding ways for our students, many of whom are the ones that come with these ideas to our teachers, and our teachers who want to try innovative things. It's so important hearing from the students that have benefited, because I know they continue once they graduate to give back to our schools, and that the Alliance has never turned their back on students once they've graduated either, which is also highlighted by our students that came to support. So I just think it's really important. I wanted to just say that, it's the fact that Avid, which started at Western, was so unbelievably successful for the students at, at Western. Other schools saw that in town and asked for it to be brought there. And now that it's being moved, district-wide is unbelievable, the kind of support that that's going to provide for every single student in Greenwich. And I truly hope that, people that are listening understand that, even if they can join the trivia bowl, they can come out, run, or just donate $5, $10. Every single thing makes a difference for you guys. And it's really, we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask, I know you said it in the middle of the presentation, but if someone wanted to donate online, is it greenwichalliance.org?
Yes, it
And
is. There's a big donate button on the top
That
of the
was
page.
my next question. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity. Good night.
We will see you at trivia night, right? All right, let's see. Give it a shot.
Point of order. I'm probably wrong because the voice in the sky probably would have came out, but I think it's important that I check. Mr. Cheney, we had a motion on the table. Mr. Cheney made an amendment to the motion. I feel like we voted on the amendment to the motion, but we didn't then vote on the actual new amended motion. So we've passed Mr. Cheney's amendment to the motion, and I believe Robert rules indicate that we need to now vote on the motion. Look, pretty sure I'm going to lose, but I think
No,
we should.
Mr. Capiali is
either way.
correct. You guys just moved on a little too fast for me.
I was very excited.
So yeah, there was the motion to amend, and then you have to
Vote on the amended
vote
motion.
on the motion as amended.
Just because I had a smart question, can I ask where that guy is? Is he on Zoom?
Michael? Michael's an undisclosed location, secure location. Okay, so the motion is on the table as amended. This is scenario 3, the request funding in the full amount of $8,177,174. All
We
in
need to clarify is it the original first and second or Mr. Cheney's amendment first and second that we're voting on? I think it's the first one. We should just clarify that.
I think it's Mr. Cheney's.
It's
no?
the amendment adding the roof, the 10% and the roof.
Yes.
Okay.
He's asking.
Is that what you were asking, Michael?
No, I was asking if we voted on Mr. Cheney's, you guys voted on Mr. Cheney's amendment. As we're now voting as amended, is that a new motion or is it going back to who made the motion and seconded at some point before that?
Right. It's who made the motion and seconded.
I think it was just the wording of the amendment.
Right.
that was at question. It was the amendment was to change the vote to vote on the scenario.
Right.
So
Sounds fair?
I think to be safe, we just get a first and second again. I mean, because that can't be wrong.
No, you are. Mhm.
Okay. Do we have
As
a?
it could impact state reimbursement, I think that Mr. Capiali makes a good point.
Fair enough. Okay. So is there a first for the motion as amended? Bob?
Yes, I'll first.
And second? Karen. Seconded by Karen Hirsch. Okay. All in favor of the motion as amended? 1, 3, 4. Oh boy. 4. Okay. Against? Abstains. Okay. So that is 4, 3, 1. Motion doesn't pass, right, Michael? Because it needs a majority?
It has a majority due to the abstention.
Great. Okay. So motion passes. All right. Thank you. Now we can move on. Are you excited? Okay. Now I'd like to welcome Mr. D'Amico, who's going to talk about what is very exciting, new courses at GHS.
Thank you, Chairman McCarthy Anthony, members of the board. Good evening, Dr. Jones. Happy New Year. I've been sitting so long, maybe it's not even Happy New Year anymore. I thought I'd change things up and I'd bring my own support group with me tonight, since usually by the time we get to my presentations, there's really nobody left in the audience. So I'm feeling pretty good about our audience capacity this evening. Did you know that we have currently 350 courses offered in our catalog? And did you know, thanks to Microsoft Copilot, they told me today that on average, a high school of our size roughly has in the range of 230 to 280 courses offered. And to be considered an elite high school, you have to have at least 300 courses. And so tonight we're going to ask you to consider 4 more courses. But before I do that, I just have to take a moment and say, from the middle schoolers that spoke tonight to our post-grads, poised, articulate, confident, and accomplished. Usually when I'm up here speaking to you, I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you and you're asking me about growth and what numbers we need to get to. But, the story that numbers don't tell, the students tonight told. And I'm really impressed and proud of the students that we produce in the Greenwich Public Schools. And so I think just the future is so bright. I also take to heart what one of our student government representatives said about too many AP courses. And I think I'm going to try and invite myself to maybe one of their future meetings to hear more about that. But I look at it a little bit differently. I think because we have 2,600 and something students at the high school, I think choice is a good thing. And I think giving kids opportunities to go down different learning pathways, because everybody is so unique and individualized in their interests, the more we can offer, the better. But I look forward to having that conversation and engaging with our high schoolers. So to that end, usually this is where I would tell you a little bit about how we got here. But when Mr. Mayo told me he couldn't make it tonight, I thought I would do something different, especially since you're going to hear a whole heck of a lot from me next month at the retreat when we're going to put forward a brand new K-12 STEM and ELA report, which I'm really excited about. I thought I would bring our vice principal from Greenwich High School, who you don't hear from all the time, Miss Dana Tulata, to walk you through what it takes to recommend a new course to the board, and then to introduce you to the folks that came out and stayed late to try and answer any questions that you may have and give you confidence in voting next time on approving these 4 courses. So, Ms. Tulata.
Good evening. So I thought it might be helpful for everyone to understand the process we use prior to bringing any course to the Board of Ed for approval. When a department recognizes a need, they bring a draft of the new course to the principal and vice principal. We give them feedback before they present to LPC. That's our Learning Program Council. This is a team that has representation from all departments and is a mix of teacher leaders and administrators. We ask questions of the individual presenting the new course to ensure that it meets our high standards of excellence and is truly a course that we think our Greenwich High School students would benefit from having the option to take. Once we have the support of LPC, we share with the Chief Officer of K-12 Curriculum and Leadership, who then brings it here. I am delighted to have the opportunity to introduce the members of our high school administration team who are happy to answer any questions you have about the 4 courses we are presenting this evening. Mr. David Wacko will present AP Business and Personal Finance. Ms. Lucia Recco will present AP Human Geography. Mr. Andrew Byrne will present AP Cybersecurity. Ms. Leah Stillman and Mr. Tom Pereira will present Honors Art History. And they brought 2 teachers who helped create the proposal, Ms. Liz Vasquez and Ms. Cheryl Iozo.
Good evening, board. As you heard, I'm David Walko. I'm the Clark House Administrator, and I oversee business as one of the departments at Greenwich High School. The business department is excited to be proposing this new course, AP Business and Personal Finance. First, I want to say that this course will also cover the graduation requirement for personal finance, as that is part of the class. It is embedded within their course description. This AP Business course is also part of the AP Career Kickoff. The course blends foundational business theories with applied personal finance. Students will study, analyze business practices, both local, national, and global. Our targeted students, if you want to say, that we're looking at is 10 through 12. We also would like them to have the requirement of having completed Algebra 1 because of some of the accounting that's in the course as well, so that they're successful in those courses, in the course. The course is broken up into 5 units. The first unit is business, new ideas, some competition within the business realm. Unit 2 is marketing. Unit 3 is, this is where the personal finance, it's broken up into 2 parts. So part 1 of Unit 3 is the personal savings and borrowing. The part 2 is the business finance of creating businesses and looking at that part. And then Unit 4 is the management and strategies of a business. And then Unit 5 is personal goals, budgeting, and investments. So it really covers all those areas. And as I should have mentioned also, starting this off, business is our #1 declared major for students applying to higher education. Not only at Greenwich High School, but when you look at national trends, that is the most declared major that students are looking at when they are applying for schools. The course itself is case studies using real world examples. It's a lot project-based. It is currently being piloted this year. It is a brand new course that AP is putting out. So next year will be the first year that this course will be ever offered with the test at the end in May. Currently, the only cost right now is the textbook. I don't have a specific price. There's a range, and that's why you see it in the proposal. I went with the higher end. If we looked at having 2 sections, thinking we probably would have more with the interest of the number of classes that we do offer in business, but at least this gives us the opportunity to run 2 classes at the same time. That also the staff development that goes along with this, because it is a brand new course from College Board, is no charge. And currently the 3 business teachers have signed up for all of that in the hopes that you pass and move this course forward, so that they are already on board and getting that information. And when those staff development opportunities present themselves. And I guess with that, that is the overview. If you have any specific questions that I can answer. Really?
I don't actually have a question, but I was going to say I'm glad to see this as a new recommended course. I have, so many of our students go on to college and are applying specifically into the business schools at specific colleges all around the country. We're seeing more and more and more of that. So I think that this is a really incredible opportunity for students to have some basis to truly understand, especially if they're applying to business school, to also have an understanding of the different career paths that they can take once there. I know I had a student that applied as an education major and then transferred once she got accepted into the business school, and is now questioning those paths because she didn't have access to know, maybe what a lot of them meant. So I think this is a great opportunity for our students, giving them that leg up before they get to school.
Yeah, and I think this is also a great complement to the other business courses that we offer within, the accounting, the entrepreneurship, all of those. It really does lend itself.
Thank you. I know that you mentioned the course will have case studies. Will there be any real life practice? I don't have a finance background at all, but I was thinking where they might invest a little bit or play around with something like that.
Sure. And that really is up to the individual teachers. We might be able to use the case study of roofs, and help that along. But no, the case studies, there are some that are being driven by College Board. Again, as I said, this is being piloted right now. There are, I think the last I saw was about 5 schools in the Northeast that are piloting right now, besides obviously across the nation. So they're looking at some of those case studies, but yes, they leave those opportunities up to obviously the local areas. And that's where in the course description, it talks about both local and national. And that's where they really want to pull the case studies from, is some of the local issues that you're seeing. Thank you.
Hi, Lucy.
Hello, I'm Lucy Areco. I'm the Program Administrator for Social Studies. I'm very excited to propose AP Human Geography as a new course at Greenwich High School. This is a very unique course that covers topics not already covered in any of our other courses. In general, it explores the relationship between people and the spaces in which they live. To give you an example of some of the major topics, the units cover population and migration patterns, cultural patterns and processes, agricultural and rural land use, cities and urban land use, cultural diffusion, and industrial and economic development. Do you have any questions about this course?
Go ahead, Karen.
Yes, it's this course and extends a little broader. I noticed as I was going through this, you've got a prerequisite of a C or better, which concerns me. That's a really low bar for an AP class. I mean, our AP classes should be designed for our kids who need extra challenge. And in light of what we're seeing in terms of mental health challenges, kids who are struggling with too much homework because they're in classes where they can't keep up, and frankly, they're overwhelmed because they're in classes that they shouldn't have been put in. I would strongly encourage the school district and the individual teachers who are setting prerequisites to reverse what I would consider an ill-advised AP for all and raise the bar. I'm concerned about the percentage of students we're seeing who are scoring 3s on APs, which is not a good score. And put the power back in the hands of the teachers who are best calibrated to assess which students can handle the rigors of these classes.
Sure.
It has been a focus for us for several years to not gatekeep our students. And we believe in it strongly as educators. And if you go back and you look at our student achievement report, what you see is we do have more students taking AP courses. They're taking more courses than ever, and we've had the highest results that we've had just this last year. And so the kids are being successful. And I know some people don't see a 3 as okay, but our goal is to prepare kids, young people to go to college. And for some students, a 3 is absolutely celebratory. And I would rather have a student make a 3, which again, many universities count as college credit, but I would rather have them make a 3 and be in a really rigorous course and have a great experience than be in a lower level course because we said no. And if they really want to go and they really want to try, and I think some of the kids that you heard speak tonight, if you speak 2 languages and you didn't move here until 7 years ago, you should have the same opportunities as other kids. But it's going to be harder and they may not be ready to actually score a 5, but I think that they can do some really great work. And I don't know, Dr. McCanty, Anthony, you may have some to add as well, given that you do this work.
Well, I was going to ask, is that how common is the C prerequisite for other AP classes? Do you know that in social studies?
It's for all of them.
It is
That's the same prerequisite.
It is for all
Yeah.
of them. Interesting. Okay. Karen.
Having a C as a prerequisite is definitely something I think maybe we can have a discussion on. I was wondering that myself also, but I want to see all of our students succeed. So my specific question about this class is, I know you had surveyed a lot of students in the freshman and sophomore year as to what they might be considering taking, if they would consider taking this course, and we really don't have, anything. I'm sorry, I was looking at my notes. You'd said, it was basically a leap from, global studies and or U.S. history. So I was just wondering, I know it leads to, I looked it up, urban planning, data analysis, policy, positions, international relations, opportunities. But, I'm wondering, because this is such a big leap, because we don't really have anything that kind of aligns with it in lower courses, if this is something that's really something we should do as AP, or if there's an alternate that we could possibly consider adding that may not be of AP level, as somewhere of an in-between, that students might be interested in seeing this before we add an AP level, just because I know the cost is really high for AP courses. And it also requires students to put in that funding to pay to take the AP course, which is a sort of requirement, or maybe it's not always a requirement for APs to sign up for it. But so I'm just curious to see if there was something else, there's not a direct linkage between the two courses that, I would say that you had asked. So I was just wondering if there's something that might be of another course that we could consider that might not be AP level, that we could give to students, because not everybody is necessarily ready for an AP course. But I think that some of the things that are being covered in this are very valuable. So that's sort of why I was wondering, because I know we were being offered 3 AP courses and 1 honors. If there's a lot of students that would take this instead of another AP course, or in addition to, I don't want AP scaring students off. And I want to make sure it's sort of open to students who might be, dipping their foot into this area.
Let me tack onto that question, because I think I'm saying the same thing. Like, who do we see as the audience really for the course class?
Well, it's open to juniors or seniors.
Yeah, but what kind, so student on what path is going
Yeah, I was going to say the progression, because I didn't see anything prior to this as an AP linkage. That's why I was wondering if there was another way to do it.
Well, if you think about some of our other AP courses that a student could take junior or senior year, they're similar in that, students have not been exposed to the topics prior, such as AP psychology, AP economics. We could certainly consider a semester elective similar to AP human geography. I'd have to think about what that is. That would be an option for students who did not want to opt for the AP class. Interesting, though, in the survey, at least 20% of students in honors electives did say they would consider the AP human geography in lieu of the honors elective. So I do think it appeals to maybe a new group of students who don't see something in particular interest of our current AP offerings.
I was just going to note, I think it also is hard for us to look on the black and white document here, because we have yes, no, maybe, would take it instead of, and the dark numbers are pretty much all look the same to us. So maybe we're not seeing it in the same manner, the pie chart. Am I? Yeah. So
yeah, if you read
that,
the text,
that could be
the text above gives the percents added up.
Is this a new course from the College Board?
No.
Okay, this has been around for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
Good evening, Board of Education. Dr. Jones. My name is Andrew Byrne. I'm the Folsom House Administrator, also overseeing our computer science and math department. As I mentioned in the fall, our department has been spending some time taking a look at the new College Board offering in AP cybersecurity. This course follows a very similar model as Mr. Walco outlined with his personal finance. So I won't reiterate all that, but I will say, a day doesn't pass where you don't pick up a newspaper and see that there's been a cyber attack of some sort. And so this course would give our students the opportunity to plan for, protect for those cyber attacks, while also mitigating responses and hopefully ensuring things like this don't happen. So it would serve as an introductory course for our students that are getting ready to go off into college. As you may or may not know, there's about 50,000 jobs in America right now that are going unemployed because we don't have kids that have this skill. So I think this is a timely program and something that we should be offering our students. And I would also say that we do have many clubs at Greenwich High School who participate in a variety of hackathons or cyber patriot exercises. And we do think that students will come out and be interested in participating in this course. It also allows us to offer another offering for those students who max out their math classes and computer science classes while at Greenwich High School and want to get another AP credit. So I think it's the next logical step for us as a department, as a district, and I would appreciate the board's support in moving this forward.
Go ahead, Veronica.
Thanks. Are there other districts nearby that have this course? And it's my other question is, I would be very impressed with any teacher who's able to teach. So what sort of a staff member might we be using or looking for? Because this is such a specific and unique, but very cool skill.
Sure. Yeah, so similar to what Dave was sharing earlier, it's brand new to the College Board. It's being piloted throughout the country. So they're gathering information on how that pilot is going right now, and I'm sure we'll learn even more in the coming months. But we do have, fortunately enough, as I'm sure no surprise to you, we have an amazing cadre of mathematicians and computer scientists at Greenwich High School who teach our wonderful students. And so there is an interest among several of them that they would love to participate, similar to how Dave explained in some of those free professional development opportunities over the coming months through the College Board.
It sounds very cool. Thank you.
Yes, it certainly does.
So Andrew, just can you help me just understand the progression again? So if you're taking computer science, like what would be a student's typical path to AP cybersecurity?
Yeah, so we're looking at, we still like to have everyone have the same foundation. So we do require an intro level computer science course. And then from there, our students do go on to AP computer science principles. And that is the prerequisite for this class. So we would expect that we would see kids deciding between either going into computer science, AP computer science A, or taking AP cybersecurity, or flip-flop. They may decide to do it both, or they may just decide to go in one direction over the other. I think, as some of you may know, with AI being what it is, the emphasis on program is actually somewhat going down. And so I think this will also fill a void that may be happening just naturally anyway.
And then, given what we heard earlier, for the student, are there options for that student who took computer science? Was there a next step in this field, not at the AP level? Would there anything that they could move on?
Yeah, we're fortunate enough, as Mark mentioned, we have quite a few courses on the books. We do have several computer science classes that we do offer students to enroll in every year. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to necessarily run those classes, but we have everything from courses where the kids could design apps to doing some really creative things in the arts as well. So there are some really neat outlets. And of course, one thing that I think is true of all about Greenwich High School is we have a tremendous number of kids who participate in independent studies. So if we don't have the enrollment, or we don't have something that's on the books, we're willing to work with the students and the administration to ensure that they get the experience.
Okay.
I was going to say, I know that this is a new course that's being piloted this year, as you mentioned. So I have two questions. I do see the absolute need for this, because this is such a growing major for students throughout the country, and we're seeing it popping up more and more colleges in certain areas. Do you know? Because I know it's a pilot this year. I mean, I assume we'll also be seeing how many schools are offering it this year versus how many are asking to offer it next year. I don't know if you know that data, but more importantly, do you know if a student gets a 3 or above, like, will this also lead to credits for them in college like the other APs? As it's a pilot this year, I don't know if we know that answer, or if this is just something that'll give them a certificate that they've completed, a certain level.
No, that's a really great question, Ms. Hirsch. And I will say, a couple of years ago, I was standing in front of you about AP pre-calculus, and we had the same sorts of questions. And I will say, I think the College Board does their homework ahead of time before they offer. I think right now they have over 100 colleges that are willing to give some sort of credit. It may not be in a major, but it might fulfill a requirement. And I will say, I think we have a pretty good track record, at Greenwich High School of being able to deliver. So I think if we get the approval from the board, I think we'll have some pretty good success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leah Stillman. I'm the arts coordinator for Greenwich Public Schools, and I'm really excited to introduce kind of a pivot of a course, a change in a course. So it's not actually an extra course that we're adding in the visual art program, but we're taking what was art appreciation and hasn't been really filled for a number of years, and pivoting over to some feedback that we received from the board and from the community regarding our AP Art History course, which has seen a ton of growth from 15 students all the way up to 100 and, I need my glasses now, 102 across 5 sections this past year. And that's a 580% increase in growth. But also, we've had so many kids taking the AP, but not as many taking the exam. And there was some pushback and criticism from the board in the fall. I believe that was my first meeting as an employee here. So that was, I think that was my onboarding session here. But now I come with the experience of about 4 months. So, and the teachers took that feedback and said, wait a minute, we could make a little change here and offer a course that it will now be called Honors Art History that will fill that need to give students a course before they take AP Art History. So it gives them some more foundational skills. It's really nice because students like to take a visual art class, but not all want to take a studio class. This gives them an option to take a history course and really learn about visual art history. And this course has 5 units: Introduction to Art Historical Methodology. Unit 2 is Ancient and Medieval Worlds, the Renaissance, Reformation, and Baroque Reactions, Revolution and Radical Break, and Global Perspectives in Contemporary Art. So it really takes you through the history of art, and it gives students a basis before they take AP Art History, which could decrease the AP Art History enrollment maybe for a year or 2, but in the end, it's really going to increase the type of student and the enrollment that will be happening in the AP Art History classroom with this foundational course. So does anyone have any questions? I know you have the proposal in front of you already. Yes?
As a parent of a student who was following this, trajectory in high school and was faced with, when she was faced with taking AP Art History, was scared. Truly. I mean, that particular AP is a tough one. You have to have knowledge, such deep, in-depth knowledge of a lot of these art pieces and past. I think this is an incredible opportunity for students who are either scared to take the AP version of art history or a student who wants to go a little further in depth. I also think it supports some of the other courses that were being offered. I mean, this is a lot of students want to go into that field. And this fills a hole. So I couldn't be happier to see this as an option for our students, again, who are afraid to take the AP because it is such a deep depth of knowledge that's needed to go into that. And this will really give them that boost to move on to the AP course, or just to give them what they are interested in learning in art history.
And Ms. Hirsch is correct. AP Art History is one of the hardest AP exams out there. It covers such depth and such a breadth of and broad topics that this does really fit that bill. So
foreign language and AP Art History are usually those that the students are a little, scared of sometimes.
Okay.
Question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, Mr. D'Amico. You can tell your entourage can go home now.
And we appreciate the early start next month at 6 p.m. Thank you.
So up next, we asked Dr. Jones to give us an update on the consistency regulation that we passed a little bit ago and has now been up and running for a while.
So originally, I was just going to have this as a part of a superintendent's update, but we decided to put it on as an item so that it reminds everybody the full document that was new for us in the fall. And this was based on input from the board, from parent feedback, from student feedback over the last several years, where we were not consistent and people were saying, can you not be more consistent? And the board held several retreats at the end of last year and then also at the beginning of this year, and really talked about where we had some of those inconsistencies. While it is K-12, most of the elementary we've been working on that over the last couple of years. And it actually just notes like the new elementary report card that we're implementing this year. That's, been a couple of years in the works, and you'll hear updates on that as we get towards the end of the year. In middle school and high school, it really was an outgrowth of seeking feedback. If you remember, every department at the end of last year all answered the same questions. And that's when I think we even had more of a realization how different it was across all the departments. And you could have a teacher who might think 7 grades for a semester was okay. And then you might have another teacher who's giving 50 or 60. And it wasn't about telling them exactly what they must do, but setting at least a minimum standard. So all of our students are getting feedback and timely feedback. We were hearing things previously, and probably this one is more at high school, where the students might take an assessment, they wouldn't have the assessment returned, and then the next assessment was actually being given. So now the teachers all understand once you give an assessment, feedback needs to be given before you move on and give another assessment. So again, this is just as a reminder. And the one thing that was also asked, are we actually monitoring what we said we were going to do? And so this was introduced to middle school and high school staff at the beginning of the year. Principals worked with their teams, their staff as well, and admin teams. They actually just went back at the high school, reviewed this again before midterms. But they are doing, I had a long conversation with Mr. Mayo. Ms. Talata also shared with me some of the data that she's looking at. They are doing a phenomenal job keeping up and really making sure that they're trying to implement this with fidelity. And I will say I haven't had one complaint, so that's usually a really good thing. So they're doing a great job.
So go ahead, Sophie.
I just want to say I'm just so thrilled with that update. I was really excited about this regulation, and I think it's so beneficial for the students, especially at the high school. It's so stressful. They're also worried about their grades, and just to be able to keep on top of it and get timely feedback and know that you're struggling, and have the opportunity to go seek out extra help if you need it. So I'm just so happy to hear that it's going well. That's great news.
Karen, you had a question? Okay. All right. Thank you for the update. I think it's like Sophie said, that's important. So up next, speaking of updates, you're still on, Dr. Jones, the update on the CMS open enrollment survey we started last month.
So where we are as of today, we have 14 sixth graders. We actually thought it was at 17, but one of the things that we had to go back in and do is cross-reference, look every student up for their address. And so there was one family that actually was in a building where they were actually, their home zone is already central, but they were in a magnet that was central. So we have to check everybody's forms. So we have 14 sixth graders. We have 3 going into 7th grade and 4 going into 8th grade. Just from, for your knowledge, for K-5, HEMAB has 3, New Lab 1, Glenville has 6, 1 from North Mianus, 1 from Parkway, and 2 from JC. So it's really just kind of little bits all over the place. So that's where we are as of today. What I'm doing now is really trying to also dig into, as students are applying, making sure that I have really good data on how it's going to impact one school or the other. Almost all of these, not all, but almost all of them are coming from Western. So we're trying to look at, are we going to need to shift resources, not shift resources? How many of these students could have unique needs? And what I mean by that could be EL services, special education, 504, maybe they're an ALP student. How is it going to impact when you look at, is it a level 1 student that needs a lot of support, or are these primarily like level 4s that are higher on the higher side? So I'm digging in just so we'll have all of that information. And the form closed today, as we said it would, at noon. And then that'll be a decision that the board will have to make going forward, because we want to be very, very thoughtful before you just open it and just keep taking students, that we are not, which I think, we had a speaker tonight mention that, impacting another building in a negative way. So that I'm doing all of that work right now.
So do we have to make a decision on whether or not to keep it open tonight? No. Sorry.
I mean, you could, but I'm not asking for that, in the sense that right now, until we understand, now you could open it and we don't, I mean, are we going to do it or not? And just because it is numerical as they come in. So if you decided, okay, we're going to take 15, we're going to take 20, whatever, it would be like doing almost like when you do the lottery, or it's first in, first serve. But we're all in on time today by noon.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, just to clarify, and since we're kind of around the time of college decisions, I'll use those terms. Is this early action or early decision? Are the kids whose name, these 14 kids, is it an option for them to attend, or might they change their mind between now and September and the real numbers might be different?
Well, I will say, whether it's a magnet school, open enrollment, if they are zoned and their house is, for a particular school, I don't think we could come back in the fall if they change their mind and say, no, you committed to that school. Yeah, because if they live in a certain zone.
Karen?
I like the way Karen phrased that, actually. Well done. No, I was going to say, I think before the board really, I mean, whether we leave it open or not is irrelevant. I think the question more is, we now have an understanding of how many students might be interested in moving over and what impact that might have. But I think it's more important for us, before decisions are made, seeing what impact that would have on the schools these students are leaving, because we don't want to try to solve one issue by unintentionally causing other issues that we didn't have before. So I mean, I'd love to understand some of those factors before we have a discussion again, a deep discussion on this, because we don't want to create any unintended consequences elsewhere. So I think that's really important. I know there were, some questions asked, PTAC and other things in regards to this too. So, yeah.
So we'll go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just add, it is very, very difficult to have a conversation with these types of numbers to a really granular level, because you're talking about children. And so that's why I'm doing the work. It's not, I don't even have, like, all the principals aren't sitting around the table talking about this together. We're looking at each child as they come in so we can better understand how it will impact. So I can give you the higher level, but because we're talking about such small numbers of students, like we might have, if there's 14 students, maybe it's 6 special needs children, maybe it's 2. Does that impact the staffing that we need in the building or not? That's the kind of stuff I'm looking for.
I was looking more for, since you mentioned they're all coming from Western, we know that, I don't want to bring up racial balance again, because I think that's a whole other thing, but that was really what I was referring to. Not something as granular as, does a student need added support in one way or another? Something much larger is, does this impact some of those other factors that we've been looking at for some of those schools, or an overcrowded classroom, for instance? Like if we were having a majority of these students that were interested in leaving Eastern to come over there because the classrooms there are so full, that maybe they would have a smaller classroom or cohort at Central, just of students in a classroom, that, again, that could have a very positive impact on things. So that's what I was looking for, as an unintended consequence, and not about an individual student, just as a general thing.
I think that's the hard thing about the unintended consequences, is you have to drill down to the individual student, because it's really kind of that totality of the group that's coming in or where they're coming from. And again, the bulk of them are definitely zoned for Western.
And so it sounds like there's more to come here.
Yeah.
You're going to do some digging and it's going to something we're going to be talking about in subsequent months. Okay. All right. Mr. Capielli, go ahead.
We had discussed in one of our earlier meetings whether or not opening this up for only Eastern students, whether that was a legal issue. And we talked about potentially asking an attorney about that. I want to be sensitive about racial imbalances as well, but right now the practicality of it is we're literally looking for bodies to move from Eastern to Central, but we may not be offering that exactly because we're not sure if we're violating any laws by doing that. Have we asked an attorney about that?
I have not asked an attorney, but we offered this to Eastern. It was offered to Eastern equally like it was Western. It's just they don't have the same level of interest.
Yeah, no, I get that. Can we, in the end, can we tell the Western kids no?
I can double check with the attorney on that if we're saying we want an attorney opinion, but I would not recommend that. But I'm happy to get an attorney opinion on it.
Yeah, because I think we all want to be conscious about causing another, an unbalance in another school. But obviously we want to be careful with the law.
I did go in and again, part of this analysis, when you talk about racial balance, again, I say that we're really all balanced everywhere. So I hate to call it imbalance because we're a very diverse community, but for racial balance, could it have an impact? Absolutely. I pulled the enrollment report just to refresh my mind on where Western was, and they're very, very close to already being impending this year. So it doesn't take that many students to change it. But I will calculate that as we go forward so I can have a better idea exactly of the percentage and where we're sitting.
Sorry, I think on Paul's question though, of could we open it just to Western? I think it's a moot point. It doesn't sound like anyone could we open it only to Eastern? I think it's a moot point because I think no one from Eastern put their name on the list.
I think I don't have the exact where they're from. I could look it up, but I think there's literally like one 6th grader and then there might be a 7th and an 8th grader. Like it's very, very low.
Right. So there's a lot of unknowns here. So I think we have to wait and drill down here and so Dr. Stone's come back. Okay. Quick.
I just want to make sure that we offer this only as a survey who might be interested. This was no guarantee or promise to students or parents or families that this was definitely happening. I know it's just to be clear of what problem we're trying to solve. So I just wanted to make clear that it was simply a survey of asking who might be interested. And so that's leading us to the next discussion points at some point, right? Correct? Just the survey. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Brandon, you're up.
I believe is Patrick at the podium.
Here comes Patrick now.
Yeah. We're in good hands with Patrick. He's going to go through some of the highlights of the report.
Okay, thank you, Ben. So the report in front of you for this month is pretty standard as what was presented in the last few months. The things that I want to highlight on the monthly financial report is about the special education out of district and the settlement projections. It has been stabilized at the 8.8 million as the projection with a 10.8 million of budget. So if this trend continues, it will probably is a budget saving items at the end of the school years. So otherwise, the rest of the financial reports are pretty standard. And then if there's any questions.
Patrick, I don't know, not necessarily the question, but I think it's worth reiterating that that is not the standard across the state of Connecticut at the moment, where districts are pointing out savings due to special ed settlements. And I think that we need to trumpet all we're doing there over the last few years, because it's really impressive. You see headlines every day, particularly as everybody's in budget season, about the amount of overages that people are hemorrhaging across the districts.
Yep.
All right.
Right.
Move to the next one.
Yep. The next one is on the budget transfers. So there's one item that you see on the report. That one is for the cost cap schools. They are transferring the budgets to support their after-school activities. So that is a within kind of like the same major object code transfer is an information items for the board members. Yep.
Sorry, just to clarify, this is transfers within COSCOB or from elsewhere to COSCOB?
Within COSCOB and within their salary major object codes. Yep. All right. Thank you.
Okay, finally, the BOE meeting agenda plan.
You missed the absentee report.
This
I
is
always
so
miss
sad
the-
if you don't call on me now.
He's been here this whole time.
Dr. Bud, how could I forget?
Well, yes. Thank you, Michael Joseph. I will just call your attention to the standing item report, and you will see that our staff, like other humans in Connecticut, experienced significant illness in what's represented on my chart as week 17 of this school year, which was the second week of December. So we rebounded from that on week 18, which was a really short week, just a Monday and Tuesday. And in fact, as the chart at the bottom of page 1 represents, because we track for this and show the data Mondays through Fridays on a weekly basis because of interest to the board has been weekly trends in absenteeism. It happens to be the case that because of that short week of 2 days before the December break, we actually have 18 weeks in August through December this year compared with 17 weeks the prior 2 years. So there's a little bit of a difference that I've represented in that asterisk on the chart. But the point is, we certainly had very high sickness absenteeism that week 17. And you see that best represented, I think, on the very final chart, where you see a very high sickness rates. Certainly our staff has rebounded from that. And it's not a surprise, of course, that illness tracks general trends because teachers and professional assistants are in high geographic proximity to students who also are sick and coming to school. And I'm certainly happy to answer questions, but if I might, I just want to share a really interesting personnel tidbit with you that makes this even more worthwhile. And I want to give a special shout out to Mr. Braulio Santiago, who's retiring tomorrow from Greenwich Public Schools after 50 years in public school education in Connecticut. And many of you know Braulio as having worked for the past decade or so as a program administrator for adult and continuing education. When that position ended in June, he transitioned back to where he began his career many years ago. He ended his career, or will end it tomorrow, teaching ESL and Spanish at Parkway Elementary School, and we were privileged to give him a nice send-off there the other day. Braulio is well known in the state of Connecticut for many reasons, but one of them is he was an outstanding elementary school principal in New Britain for 28 years, and at the time he began being a principal back around 1980, he was the youngest elementary school principal in Connecticut. So I'm happy Braulio, I think, is watching, and I want to say it's a great privilege to have worked with somebody of his high character and quality till the very end of 50 years, coming to work every day. So congratulations to that. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this report.
I think we just have to echo. I mean, that is incredible. I mean, if he is listening, all of us wish him really heartfelt congratulations on what an amazing career. See no questions, Dr. Budd.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
And now the agenda plan. Any thoughts?
I just want to note, I heard one of you comment about what Mr. D'Amico was speaking about at 6 o'clock. If you look at the agenda, the 6 o'clock is the presentations for the retreat. So that's why he said thank you for 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock is the executive session. This is an executive session that generally we do with the board every year. One section is on the outplacement and settlement and things that we can't help educate the board publicly about, but our attorney comes and does that section. And then the other one will be the legal update and pending. However, if the current board legal issue is not resolved, it will probably have to be rescheduled because there'll be a conflict of interest in which attorneys can be, in that meeting. So I'll be watching that, and the attorneys are all set and ready to come. So hopefully we will get it resolved by then. Other than that, that's it for me.
Any comments on future agenda items? Go ahead.
I'd like to add at some point, I know we have a couple sessions that are specifically focused on academics. I don't think I was the only one up here who was a little surprised to see C as the threshold for an AP. What I'd actually like to do is I'd like to maybe do a deep dive into what the criteria are for the different levels of courses, and see trends over time. There's certainly been some concern of I'll use sort of more of a colloquial term of a watering down of ALP and APs. So I'd like us to take a double click on that.
Last year we talked about and we put it in our board goals, having a mid-year, kind of a mid-year review. We felt it was unfair. We also had to talk about it as if she's not here. The unfair to talk about Dr. Jones' performance only once a year. So we'll talk more about that, and I'll talk with Sophie about it. But February 5th retreat, I was wondering if that was the time to have some of those conversations. We did have that conversation back in the spring, so it might make sense to have that. That would be an executive session, so that's something we'll have to talk about. That would the February 5th meeting. It also might be a good opportunity, since we have so many new board members, to talk a little bit about what that looks like, so that I know when I was my first year on the board, that review process at the end of the year was kind of weird, and I didn't know what to expect. So I think it might be good onboarding for new members. Anything else? Seeing none, does anybody have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn from Mr. Cheney. And a second. Ms. Hirsch will second. All in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.